Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Manga Recap here on July the 21st of 2021. I am Nick, and I am joined by... Oh, I was asleep too recently to be clever. Hang on.
Okay. I was like, ooh, I'm waiting to see where this bit goes. Turns
Normally-
out nowhere.
You see, normally we have a dual color deck that we utilize, but today we've had a third color, which means that we're not going to win any matches. So please join us in welcoming Austin to the podcast.
It's me, Austin Yorski. If you're splashing into blue, I feel like you can probably still get some wins. Sultai is really hot right now in standard. The ultimatum cycle is popping. Everyone knows what's up.
In one sense, you've just demonstrated to me how good this manga is, because I understand everything in it so much easier. All right.
Your facial expression.
It's like, all right, these terms are too stupid. I appreciate every time they're like, in this month, a deck with this stupid name took over the meta. But here's how it works, and because I'll let you know, because this is all stupid. So
If it helps, Magic's popularity with its stupid deck names has literally pervaded the entire medium of card games going forward. As decks in every other card game are named after also bad deck names in Magic.
Patient Zero. Sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh. Sorry, Hearthstone. Sorry, Runeterra. You're owned.
Yeah, take that, Artifact.
Oh, man, don't kick Artifact while it's down like that.
I'm certainly much less excited to talk about this series.
He's taking psychic damage. He's losing sand points live on air.
Nick,
See, that I understand.
What series are we talking about?
We are talking about a manga called Destroy All of Humanity, It Can't Be Regenerated. Or actually, I believe it's They Can't Be? I don't know. Unfortunately, there is no official English translation available yet. The series is officially called Subite no Jinri wo Hakai Suru Sore wa Seikai Dekinai, which just goes to show how weird the language used in Magic the Gathering is, because...
Well, so the title is specifically a reference to the card Wrath of God, which says destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. So the title would be destroy all humanity, destroy all humans, they can't be regenerated, basically.
I know what Magic the Gathering terminology is. I know what they can't be regenerated is. Give me more credit. We've done it. Look.
Well, I'm just saying that for people who are curious how to localize it. It's like, yeah,
Okay.
it's just, I assume you just localize it as the original card is titled, basically, and you change creatures.
So, this is, as we've been alluded to, a series that is about the very, very popular, very old trading card game Magic the Gathering, which started in like 1993, I think it was. And this series uniquely is actually set very specifically in 1998 to 1999. In the real world, this isn't like the way that Yu-Gi-Oh's tie-in series work, where it's a, either pseudo-modern world or a pseudo-futuristic world where, Yu-Gi-Oh is everything that people play. The game is contextualized in the way that it generally would be, in terms of a bunch of geeks play this game in hobby shops and at organized tournaments. And it is set in the 90s, so there are references to things that were popular in the 90s. There are very, very many Final Fantasy 7 and 8 references throughout this series.
G Gundam, Sakura Wars. I got like most of them. I was feeling very cool. Or I guess the opposite of
I was
cool.
going to say, you shouldn't, because relating to these kids is the dorkiest thing a human being can do.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Spoiler warning. This is a manga about me.
So this is done in a way, if you've seen some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, where they're playing the game, but you will very regularly see like the monsters and spells that they cast manifested in like the artwork around them, as opposed to just they move a card on a table. It's made more visually interesting that way. But unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, it's not like, oh well, it's justified in universe because they have massive holographic projectors. No, it's just use your imagination.
Yeah.
This is what's happening in the game.
Yeah, remember, Nick, the actual flavor of Magic the Gathering is that we are the planeswalkers summoning these creatures to attack each other. And in that flavor, sometimes you're just like, where the fuck is a goddamn tree? I just need one tree and I can cast all my monsters, but I can't fucking find it. They keep hitting me.
I'm gonna equip boots to the snake in my imagination.
It's magic. I don't have to explain how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a couple of different things. This is a pseudo sports series in the exact same way that any series about a board game or card game would be, but it is also about being a middle school kid who gets deeply into this world in the 1990s. The big thing that really got me about this was, so our main character Hakai is this at the start of the series he's like 12 or 13, and he is just like kind of the top dog at his middle school. He beats everyone at this card game, but then he discovers this hobby shop where the game is regularly played, and almost everyone at the hobby shop is a dorky adult. And despite this, they very readily take him in and they treat him as one of their own. And it definitely reminded me of doing the exact same thing when I was the exact same age. And I was in the Magic the Gathering. A few friends of mine and I a few times would go on Friday nights to a card shop where they regularly held Magic the Gathering nights. And we would play with both kids our own age, but also there would be, some older guys there too who were very nice about the whole thing. And there's a really great sense of, oh, this would be a nice community to take part in and a nice world to get involved in. And I'm sure that absolutely no one involved in that world is a dickbag. None of them. So.
Uh-oh. Not only are the people involved in that world dickbags, a lot of people who work on the game are dickbags too.
Oh boy. Maybe it was better in the 1990s. Probably not.
Yeah, I'm sure the farther back you go, the better it was.
Exclusionary they were towards women and.
Oh gee, there's a card in one of the comedy sets of artist Rebecca Gay being burned at the stake because of the response to her from the audience. Just her art was too feminine, and that's it's a whole thing. I mean, obviously not the worst crime the community has committed, which are real crimes like felonies and so forth. But yeah, yikes.
So this is definitely a celebration of this game and the community that it is created.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there are definitely a few jerks featured in the series, but for the most part, they're, anime style jerks where they're just really, really into being the best player, and they're like, "You're not worth my time playing," and all this. The way that. No, wait. Some people are like that. I was gonna say, the way that like nobody has it. No. There are definitely people who play card games regularly that are like that. I'm not, but they aren't nearly. They're not portrayed as nearly as evil cool as the characters in this series are. And beyond that, the third big thing about the series that it kind of is about is there is a romance between two of the main characters, because when Kano, our protagonist, first goes to this hobby shop, he finds out that Sawatari, who is the class president at his school, she's very serious. They have this one-sided rivalry because both of them are the top two students in their school, but she always beats him. She's always number one, and he's always number two. So he sees her at this hobby shop, and he thinks to himself, "Oh, well, she can't come into my world and beat me at that too. So I'm gonna show her. I'm gonna beat her." And things don't work out the way that he wants to. He loses to her, and they do. Unlike in, I think, every Yu-Gi-Oh series that I've ever seen, they actually do what you're supposed to do in a full match, which is go best 2 of 3 rounds.
Yes.
As opposed to Yu-Gi-Oh where you just do one.
Well, it's because there's buzzsaws that are about to cut off your feet in Yu-Gi-Oh, so you can't be like, all right, get back up.
Glowing blue buzzsaws that send you to the shadow realm.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. They fell through that glass ceiling at the top of that vault and fall into the shadow realm.
I've only ever watched the first couple seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh. Is there ever, as it goes on, any mention of like metagame or sideboard or like
no,
any strategy?
Because the game was being created at that point still. So
okay. I mean, I know that's how it started. It was like, King of Games and a bunch of random games and stuff. They were really pulling it out of their ass. But I thought maybe as it went on, it would start to resemble something like closer to card games.
It's always been a matter of we want the audience to just be interested in this game. But there has been very, very, very little connection between what you say, the metagame, and the promotional material that they make for the show. I think that the closest that it ever got to was in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, they mentioned Chaos Emperor Dragon was so powerful that it got banned, but they don't mention that. But in the exact same series, everyone's playing Pot of Greed in every single duel. So
why wouldn't you? It's mathematically correct to play Pot of Greed.
Every deck should have it.
There's no reason not to.
Not to play Pot of Greed unless you're trying to deck your opponent out. But anyway, but yeah, there are a lot of mentions in this series of the metagame. You're right. It's completely different. But as time goes onward, the whole Magic the Gathering thing really becomes like just what's going on generally, and more of the important plot beats have to do with how Kano and Sawatari's relationship is changing, as very, very shortly after they have their first match with each other, they strike up a friendship over their shared interest, and then as they're doing more stuff together, they're going to the card shop together. He's constantly riding her to there and then back home on his bike, and they're opening packs together. They're excited to see each other after school. They start going to events together, and gradually both of them start to develop a crush on each other. And somehow more girls start to fall for Kano, which I don't know if I buy, but I guess he's okay for the most part. So I don't know.
I mean, with all the bike riding, he's getting a little jacked. Like I said, this is basically this is about my life and how I was at this time, playing cards and doing getting into way too many relationships I shouldn't have. And I hope it doesn't go the same way. This series is ongoing. Chapter 31, I think, is where it stops. And I immediately messaged Chris. I was like, "Where's the rest of it? Please, I need more." Because how it went in my life is I slept with all of them, and that was not the right answer. And I hope he does better than I did, because it doesn't work out, bud.
He's 13, so I hope he's not.
I was 14.
Okay.
It really is. If you squint hard enough, you can see Austin in some of the backgrounds of panels.
I'm just creeping around.
Yeah.
Also, this is a little before my time. It's a plot point that 6th edition comes out, because that's when they take damage on the stack out of the rules. I was playing at 7th edition, so it was a little after this. So I guess he's older than me.
So this is a very interesting series in that it is. I selected it partially because it was tagged as a sports series, which in a way it sort of is. If you squint and kind of turn your head sideways a little bit, I would say you could say like a card game series is a sports manga, sure. And this is a series where the sport in question is used to solve essentially every problem in the series thus far. If there is a conflict, it is resolved in a best-of-3 duel at some point. I'm fully expecting at some point Emmy's mom says, "You can't play anymore unless you beat me," and she slaps down her fucking mono red aggro deck and just fucking wipes the floor with her or something like that. So
she's like a high-powered business person. She has like preview access to Mirrodin. She has
oh god,
she has Skull Clamp. She's gonna fuck your entire day up.
Oh, you can't beat that. The card was broken.
Impossible. God, I hope that's how it ends.
Or she builds decks like I did back in the day and was just like, I'll find a way to make this work. I'll use Mirari's Wake to power up my Gitu Fire in my Rainbow deck.
I love all these name drops. This was so satisfying to read because it was clearly from someone who did the research or lived through this, all those stuff, like just the little things. Every time I thought I'd outsmart the manga, where they're like, oh yeah, Suicide Black is real strong right now. And I was like, man, he should play a slide deck. And then someone would roll up and be like, yeah, I'm playing a slide deck. I'm like, fuck! I thought it was clever. The manga's just as good as me. Damn it.
There's a lot of references to, from what I understand, are just things that actually happened in specifically the times that they occurred in, because Magic the Gathering fans are crazy and they just remember all of this stuff. I was talking about this with some friends while I was reading it, and I mentioned like, yeah, so he's talking about how like how they're talking about how like strong Mono Black was at this time, and then how weak it got. And so my friend's like, oh yeah, because at the time, like that was like combo winter that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's what they said happened.
When they name drop combo winter, I went off. I'm sure there's a wrestling term for that. Popping.
Yeah, you popped big. They got a big pop out of you.
I pop big for combo winter. All this stuff is like it's such a part of the history of the game. It's like you're both football fans, when someone will talk about like the undefeated Dolphins season, and you're like, neither of us are alive. We're alive at that time. How are you nostalgic for that? That's how like Magic fans feel about this time period. It's like, oh man, Urza was so broken. Can you imagine if we played back then?
Yeah, it's funny. I do not have any nostalgia for this particular time of Magic because I did not play at this point. I think I started playing when like the Duels of the Planeswalker games started coming out on like the Xbox, so like a good long while from this point.
15 years after or something, yeah.
But now working in a card store and playing regular Commander matches, there are a lot of cards that I see that I'm like, I know that card, I hate it. Or like they'll come out with a deck and I'll just be like, I know what that eventually became, or things like that. And I think the one moment that I had the biggest sense of like, oh, they nailed this is when Hajime first plays Turbo Genius, which is like a combo deck that aims to take one very, very long turn to eventually kill you by making you draw your entire deck by just, discarding cards and comboing off. And the way they display it in the manga is like Hajime is watching infinity stretch away from him, and he's just like, his turns are taking he's still going. He's this incredible. This is Turbo Genius. And it's portrayed as this big, terrifying thing. And then they cut to like the next like chapter, and it's people in the store, and they're like, yeah, everyone's playing Turbo Genius right now, and someone starts going off, and his opponent's like, wake me up when you're fucking done.
Yeah.
and that's exactly how the combo decks, like the first time you watch it, like, this is incredible, the machinations at work here, like a finely tuned watch, every gear clicking just so perfectly or it'll fall apart. And then the second time you're like, I'm gonna take a piss, just yell if I'm dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of people playing like, good luck playing solitaire and all this stuff.
And the company learned from this, and they never did it again. They never printed Nexus of Fate.
And so we're banning this card, 2 months after it's been published, or something like that, or even less.
Yeah, that was unfortunately the last year of Magic was pretty much that in entirety. I think they've ended up banning more cards in the past year than they've ever banned in a single year of Magic history before.
This is a great time to record this because the entire game is on fire right now because they're throwing a Beldrain. They've just completely, nuked their entire shit. It's not a great time to be playing.
That's okay. Now that Yu-Gi-Oh is at the point where everyone's turn lasts forever, they're just like, good, we'll just make more cards that allow that to happen.
Yeah, you just get to pick which style. Do you want to play a bunch of like pop star mermaids that do it, or would you like to be a bunch of desks that turn into school supplies that also do it?
Either way, you're going to be summoning 10 monsters in one turn, and at the end of it, your opponent won't be able to do anything, because this is a great game where you just allow your opponent to not play. This is the best way we could have possibly designed this. Remember back in the day where we didn't have monsters with effects?
When you summoned like a 1200, 800 monster, and your opponent was like, how am I going to deal with this?
Oh, thank God I drew the one card that I can summon right now that's got 1250 attack.
Oh, thank
It's
goodness.
so rare.
I drew a card that says destroy all horned beast monsters.
This series should keep going until it power creeps to the point where all of these cards are bad. Where there's like you would never play like a Sangerphage or anything. That's the inevitable end of this series. I want more of it. I'm jonesing. I'm like Chappelle in that. You got any more crack sketch?
Well, I think that is definitely the main appeal of the series, is that it very uniquely captures something that a sizable but still niche community is very passionate about, in a way that is faithful to actual events and how things unfolded. Literally before I read this, I don't think that I ever read a slice of life series that ever made me feel like this made me feel, which was nostalgic for a very particular thing that I rarely feel nostalgic for. So often when you read something like this, like, and then they were into school together and they did club things at their club. And I know that there's a lot of things where, because everyone in Japan, very many people have that exact experience, but I've never read, like a manga series that was about the math club. So if, I feel like it really depends on like having, that unique feat quality that appeals to you in a very, very specific way. And this one definitely captured that for me. But beyond that, I also really like the characters in this. This is also a funny series with a lot of really small side characters that are kind of instantly memorable, because a lot of the minor supporting characters, a lot of the ones featured at the hobby shop, are very much meant to be reflections of things in Magic the Gathering. So even Kano himself, he plays Mono Black, and he's talking about why he likes playing Black, which is like, it's about death and having dominion over death and being an awesome necromancer. And a little narration box pops up next to him that says, in 1998, the term Chunibyo had not been coined yet. Just to let you know, like, this is the kind of kid that he is. But honestly, a lot of people were like this when, they were 12 or 13. So, whatever.
It has to be stressed that the kids in this series, particularly Kano, are the dorkiest kids that have ever existed. And it's charming and also cringy at times, because there is a point, the main character's...
Are we gonna talk about the duel?
The main character's screen name or user, like his duel name or whatever, is Cross Cloud Cross, like the actual like cross symbols or whatever. And he proceeds to have a duel with an opponent who named themselves One-Winged Angel. And it's supposed to be this big dramatic duel that halfway through it's revealed like, oh, it was your best friend all along. And he's just like, I have to beat you. And they're also fighting over permission to date a girl, which is like a weird thing, but they're fucking 13-year-old loser boys. So I understand in their heads they thought it made sense. And he starts beating him, and he has like a moment. He's like, no, what I'm really angry about is because you calling yourself One-Winged Angel. You're not a One-Winged Angel. You're my Zach. And you're like, holy shit, you are the lamest kid it exists. You are the dorkiest human being to ever exist. And like the chapter after that, he's in an intense duel, and he's on the backswing, and when he starts doing his turnabout, he quotes Final Fantasy VI and gives a big speech, and you're like, I have been in rooms where children do this in card games, and they don't have the imagery and shit behind them to help sell the moment. You're like, holy shit, you're so lame. You're such a loser.
Doing this series without the cringe would have been dishonest.
Yes,
I feel
you
like
need
they
it.
had to do it.
This is one of the most sincere manga you will ever read. Like, it is largely from Kano's perspective, but it does not in any way try to like, and then I did this thing that sounded really cool. It's like, oh no, what did you say? Well, I called him Zach because he's not my rival, he's my friend. And it was really cool.
You say it's from his perspective. Should we talk about the framing device? Because this is the one thing that with the truncated length, like I didn't find satisfying, is that it opens up with like them talking about Nostradamus and prophecy and stuff, and then there's like later a kind of flash forward to the love interest as an adult, and it's like none of that has paid off so far. So it's like I mean, maybe it'll make sense at the end, but so far I'm like, I just want the nostalgic cringe stuff. I don't need a meteor to come down. I don't know why you would do that. What are you doing?
Well, it's I think it was very specifically one of those things that was like back in very specifically 1998 and 1999, people were talking about, this thing, not quite in the same scope that people talked about the Millennium Bug or anything like that, but there was a big thing like, oh yeah, the world's supposed to end. I mean, people remember like 2012, the world was supposed to end. And so I guess that was the thing that had traction. I don't remember that very specifically. I was, I guess, a little bit too young to hear people at school talking about how the world was going to end in fire because some guy 100 years ago said it would. But there is a lot of, it's 90s for the sake of 90s stuff that happens. There's a thing where like some, just little things that are just happening, like a guy who is acting as Segata Sanshiro in the background, that kind of thing. So I think that that's just really it, is that, yeah, people kind of thought that the world was going to end back then. A lot of people didn't take it super seriously, but people were at least still at least talking about it.
You don't foresee like a twist where like Hajime, like, I don't know, dies in some kind of accident, and that's kind of like because it ties into Wrath of God, the magic card, and also the meteor from Final Fantasy VII. Like all of the prophecy talk is like thematically cohesive. But if it materializes in a plot point, I feel like it's gonna be a letdown. There's no world where I want to see like her as an adult mourning her childhood friend who like died tragically. Like that's not what I'm here for.
Well, you have to understand, Austin, this is part of the same duo that did a series about masturbating in the bathroom and I think eating your own semen that ended up having a very remote, like emotional romantic conclusion to it.
It's actually, honestly, yes. Onani Master Kurosawa, which is about a guy who jacks off in his school's bathroom regularly. That is the premise. Is actually really good.
It's in my mind that we're gonna go off in a weird direction at some point, but I don't know when. Essentially, it also could be that was the hook for this series, and it's just gonna downplay that as it goes forward. But this is Japan, so the main character does have like a 90% chance to get hit by a truck at some point in this series and get killed. So it could happen.
He's gonna get isekai'd into the actual world of magic, and he's gonna meet Gideon and Nissa and Chandra. Truck-kun, thank you. I always wanted to meet Liliana.
They do say in that flash forward scene, they do establish that Sawatari is an adult, and she mentions to herself while she's looking at this photograph of her and Kano after they had their first match, which was the moment that they basically became friends. She thinks to herself, "You meant so much to me back then, and the world didn't end because of a giant meteor or whatever. I'm still here, and you're not." So I don't know if that's going to turn out to be like, yeah, they just got older and they went their separate ways, or if he died, or if she's literally saying like, because you're at a business meeting right now.
Yeah, you're physically not in my house right now where we normally live together because we got married.
No, he moved to France to be with that French lady who shows up near the end.
They're not even love interests.
No, that's why she says you're not here anymore, because he's in France. There's no, I would have said American if there was an American character, but let's talk about the love stuff though, because I think this is also kind of a weak element. Maybe, I don't know, I'm jaded to the whole thing, but having the tsundere like above you love interest, and then the actual girl who actually likes you, who you ignore for the person who is the tsundere, is very tiring. I'm tired. I'm so old and I'm so tired of it.
I honestly, I don't mind it, if only because I kind of do enjoy seeing Hajime and Emi together. Other girl is just a thing who's there. I find her character sweet. It does make me sad that she goes through all this effort to basically be like, I like you, because she really breaks out of
Yeah.
her shell to do it. So I definitely admire that. But it is something where I'm just like, look, I don't have the time to care about all you women. I don't like. I don't.
Oh my.
There's way too many that are interested in this loser kid, basically.
There's only
So,
two.
lose a little bit there. She
She
says
says she has a crush on someone else.
another loser. All right, it's a harem in a way.
Yeah, he's gonna get one for every color of magic.
Exactly. I really kind of expected that to happen. So
Yeah, he has the mono white player and the mono black player. So
and she's mono blue.
it's
It's
a
all
good
coming
premise
together.
for a story, honestly.
And mono red, that means Gabu's gonna join the harem.
Mono Red will be the uber aggressive girl.
No, it's gonna be Gabo. God damn it, the goblin player at the store.
Gabu-san is like the greatest character in this series. He's just a guy who wears a cardigan sweater and a newsboy hat cap, and he looks kind of like a goblin because he's got pointy ears and a weird nose, and he's just really nice, and that's his character. He's great.
He's gonna be so psyched when Muxus gets released. God, I just want to see his face when he sees Muxus. What a great day for him. Goblins are so good.
Okay, so to finish the one conversation, then branch off to the other. I kind of am back and forth on Yakumo, the other girl who has a crush on Kano. I think that she is okay at certain times, but I don't know. I'm a little bit tired of just that kind of. She's here to be very earnest about her feelings and not end up with him at the end kind of thing. I did really appreciate that it wasn't too deep into the series before she took him aside and was like, "I like you," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I heard what you said. I like you. I am romantically interested in you and would like to go on a date." Okay, I guess he has to deal with it now. Just get all the BS out of the way. I really appreciated that. And now it's just like, okay, he actually has to deal with, there's the girl he has feelings for. He doesn't know that she has feelings back for him. There's this girl who has feelings for him, and he has to deal with that situation, as opposed to the way that all romantic comedies in manga are, where everyone doesn't know how everyone else feels about them.
Yeah.
So, but to talk about the people that are actually at the card shop, I love that there is a really weird mix of personalities there. Gobu-san is just really nice. There is the long-haired dude who plays Artifact Dex, whose name escapes me at the moment, but he's kind of an asshole to everyone. But
yeah. Creepy guy. The guy who's like, hey, we're doing a mixer. Hey, 13-year-old girl, we need more women at this event. Would you like to join us? Like, I'm sorry, sir. Fucking excuse me?
Then she gets jealous when a girl hits on Kano, and then it turns out that girl is an adult because she becomes their teacher in the next school grade.
That's one of those chapters I like erase from my memory. Like I just I push on like one ear and the memory just pops out the other, because the implications of that chapter are very disturbing when you think about them.
There needs to be some chaperones for these children around these adults. This is not going to end well.
There are two problems that I have with this series. One is that we just went over, and two is that Emi gets sexualized just too much. Like it's, she's very often made as like the cover girl of a chapter, and she'll show up in like a not outrageous, at least, bikini, or she'll be wearing a dress and stuff. And the implication is very much meant to be that she is sexually attractive, and she's 13. It doesn't go overboard, like, look at her ass or anything like that, but it is, you are meant to see her as specifically physically attractive. And I'm sure that, if this is being read by, like teenagers and stuff, it's like there are way, way more gratuitous things probably running in the exact same magazine. But
which one does Eden Zero run in?
I was literally about to say I was a little put off, and then I started reading the other chapters for the week, and I was like, actually, it was fine. I've looked into the Ark of the Covenant with Eden Zero and Ayakashi's Triangle. I was like, no, it was 100%.
You weren't supposed to read Ayakashi's Triangle.
I was just curious. I was curious about the shows you guys, the stuff you guys talk about. I'm trying to relate to my friends.
Well, was it horny?
It was so horny. It was so. Oh my god. I don't know why. There was just full breasts. There was just Barbie. It was like Barbie doll nudity. Anyway, that's a different topic. I didn't know you could get away with that in Shonen Jump, I guess is what I wanted to say.
Oh,
you can just show it.
Monthly Shonen Ace is the same magazine that Samurai Champloo and Grenadier and Girls Bravo ran in, and I'm pretty sure all of those are more explicit than this.
There you
so,
Oh boy.
But anyway, so those are the things that kept me from going, oh, S+ ranked series to A+ ranked series for me. So, I think that my favorite character who was featured at the card shop is the owner's wife, because she's just so nice, and she is when you first see her, you just kind of think it's like, oh, she's just, how did this guy end up with this really hot woman? And then it turns out, oh no, like of course they got together because they're both really dorky people who have a lot of shared interests and have the same general very positive attitude towards others. So of course they're a perfect fit for each other. It's just, one of those jokes of like, look at the schlubby ugly dude and his banging wife. How did that happen? It's like, well, if you get to know them, you'll know why. So
it's like the Kevin James sitcom trope of like the weird schlubby guy and the inexplicably hot wife. But as the person in the Magic group who does have the inexplicably hot partner, I gotta say, it spoke to me.
It really is. It really is the manga about you. The Austin manga.
I am embodied in many of the characters. But yeah, this is obviously like S+ for me. This ruled. I loved this very much, even if there was a couple of anime tropes like the romance stuff that like I didn't love. But like every chapter is something to talk about. Like, oh man, you remember this card? Oh, this would suck now. Like, oh, I wish I could play with this. Oh my God, there was a part where they traded a Cataclysm for a Hatred and a fucking City of Traders. Oh my God, Cataclysm is $5, City of Traders is $300, and Hatred is $100. I've screamed. I had to go for a walk.
I love the part where he trades over his copy of Memory Jar to the artifact dude and is just like, I mean, I don't really see, why you think this is going to be good. And then I found out what the card did and was like, how do you not see how the card is good?
I will say this. There are quite a few people who were reading this manga along with us, and I have come to realize from their talk, if you do not know Magic the Gathering, this manga is incomprehensible to you. At no point do they ever try to explain the game. They give like a cursory, like we're all planeswalkers and everything like that, but there is no time to really stop and like figure things out. If you can't read Japanese, you will not read what the cards do, so you have to look that up separately on its own thing.
Because there's no localization. I'm sure that if this got like an official English translation, if Wizards of the Coast realized this would probably be very good for them to publish in English, then I'm sure that all that would be taken care of. But yeah.
Now, that said, and on the topic you bring up, I have sincere doubts that this series will ever get localized because Wizards is weirdly very protective of their IP recently because they're about to get into the big boy business of having shows based on their characters. And they are all about cross-branding. And this is old Magic. It doesn't feature any of those cool characters like Jason, Gideon, and Chandra. So why
we're the Stranger Things kids?
Yeah.
Come on. The Stranger Things kids get cards. That's real. I didn't make that up.
No, you're very right on that. So I don't know if this series will get localized. It very well could. But it seems very unlikely to me at the moment, which is a shame because this is, I think, a very fun series. Even if you don't know Magic, I think you could still follow along in a similar way that you would when you were following old school Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't really need to know what the card does. The characters pretty much explain it. Oh no, I played Regeki and all my creatures seem to have died. What does the card do? Who the fuck knows? I don't. You'll find out later. We'll do it later or whatever. Look it up yourself, asshole.
Yeah, if you've ever read any Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga series, it is horrible at telling you what is going on in the actual game.
Yeah.
It is basically like you say. It's like, I play a card and a thing happens, and then you just kind of have to watch the numbers go up and down, and that's it.
So I'll note that out there. There are some people out there who this might be a kind of hard series to get into if you're like, I desperately need to know what's actually happening turn by turn. Like, you're going to have to spend a lot of time looking up cards and things like that. But that said, you're in for a fun ride, no matter what. Like, I feel like it's hard to not be endeared to these dorky characters and just the fun duels they have, and how every problem they run into is solved via having another duel with somebody. There's currently a drama right now with whether or not Hajime and Ma are kind of on the rocks because they're not like fully out with like being a couple and they're at a tournament, and I guarantee they're going to play each other at some point, and that's going to be the duel that decides where their relationship goes, because that's just the kind of series this is.
Yeah. There will be like, I don't know, some sort of visualization of a zombie and an angel staring longingly at each other or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
The climactic duel should be like, if I win, then we're a couple, and so the other person only plays like draft chaff commons, so they get pulverized.
Aww, it's kind of romantic that way.
I threw the game for our love.
Sounds bullshit to me, actually.
Nick, you're not romantic. You don't understand.
Okay, sure.
Oh boy, that was fun.
All right, well, you want to get moving on then to the recap?
I think that we should, because we kind of got a late start, so we should get the let out. Fortunately, we're not talking about literally everything that came out in Shonen Jump this week. There are a couple of things that I'll just make brief mention of now. There was another Shokugeki no Sanji chapter, which was honestly probably the least noteworthy, but it was a sweet little thing about Sanji just helping out the people who were supposed to be throwing them a celebration dinner for after they saved. Was it Barati? Was that the name of the country? Or
Alabasta? I think I saw
Alabasta.
A picture of Vivi somewhere, so
Yeah.
I just assumed it's about Alabasta.
And there was like no fan service in it for once, which was crazy. So. The other thing, much more noteworthy, was it was a one-shot by Tatsumi Fujimoto, the mangaka of Chainsaw Man, called Look Back, which was this gargantuan one-chapter one-shot that is basically the length of a full volume. You should read it. It's not just good. It's like it says a lot about creative processes and grief, and it says things in a way that are very specifically meant to be read in a manga. And honestly, I'm kind of grateful that we're not going to be talking about it, because there are certain aspects of it that I don't feel like we could do justice by talking about them because of the visual nature of the way that they're conveyed. So go read that if you haven't already. That done.
But Nick, what manga are we going to talk about?
We're going to start off with My Hero Academia,
Oh.
chapter number 300. Oh,
Oh, no.
Just wanted to be mean.
chapter number 320, Deku versus Class A. Oh no, it's the thing that we knew was going to happen at the end of last chapter, where Deku doesn't want to talk and he's smelly, and the entire class is like, take a bath.
It's the best part is a character actually calls him out on being stinky. It's the only part I really love.
You two seem so down on this. Listening to the show like over the past couple of weeks, to me, I was just like, yeah, I can't wait till he gets his ass whooped. This is gonna be great. And then it happened. I don't know. I liked it.
I've been more positive on this than Chris has, but I mean I've been more positive on the series overall, so than I have on this specifically. Also, Coda has a big close up on this, and I was like, whatever. And Ojiro too, and I was like, all right, I get it. You're featuring everyone. That's fine.
Everybody's here, like Smash.
So we start off. Deku has told everyone, "Don't try and stop me," and I don't know if he just hasn't drunk water in a while, but like his speech bubbles keep on being drawn differently with distorted outlines and stuff. So I'm guessing he sounds different.
Well, Bakugo even points it out. He's like, "You look drawn differently than the rest of us," and it's like,
it's like, well, you're just gonna say it.
I was like, not really the series that usually pokes fun at yourself like this, but all right.
This was very controversial in your Discord. People had a lot of feelings about this line. Was it translated accurately? Is it appropriate? Everyone had feelings.
What do you feel, Austin?
You guys have had this conversation before about people saying like, you're the main character. Like, I'm a side character in this story. And it's like, listen, nerds do say stuff like that sometimes, but also I'm trying to like get immersed in the fiction. So you're really kind of taking me out of it. And so like, I don't know if this is accurate. I don't speak Japanese, but I wouldn't have made this choice as a author is all I'll say. I don't know if it was right for other people, but it didn't do it for me.
Bakugo in particular has been kind of the one to say, you're just a supporting cast member, get out of my way kind of thing, because, he's like that. He's very extra, but he's also secretly, not secretly, he is very obviously a massive dork. He just covers it up with aggression. But there is a difference between saying you're just a supporting character to someone in casual conversation and you look like you're drawn differently than the rest of us. Like, how would you even say that in a world where you live with people who look like animal human hybrids? Like,
yeah,
there are people that are drawn differently in the series. So that's just the world you're supposed to live in. So I don't know. The very specific quality of the line is odd to me. So I can see both sides of it.
I just wish the character who was actually Deadpool was here to have said the Deadpool line, but he's not.
He's dead.
Well, I'm trying not to spoil it since Austin watches the anime.
It's fine. I listened to your show. I know. I've heard all the spoilers.
Okay. Deku tries to run away by summoning a smoke screen, and Bakugo is just like, whatever, and just blows it away with an explosion. And he then says, oh, now that you're a super powerful big shot, are we just a bunch of NPCs to you? It's like, yeah, see, he says stuff like that all the time. That's fine. Koda summons a bunch of birds in order to try and stop Deku, and he's like, hey, they said you could come back to school. You could come back. It's okay to stop running away. Sero then does a thing that I didn't know was going to work, which was he uses his tape to snag one of the black whips that is coming out of Deku's back, showing that they are actually attached to him and can be manipulated by his opponents, which we haven't seen to this point. And he brings up like, hey, or he doesn't even bring it up, but Deku flashes back to how Sero helped him to train to master Black Whip back when he was still at 1A, and he thinks about that. And from there, we just get this sequence of a bunch of different characters trying to appeal to Deku and be like, hey, come on, come back. We care about you. Come back to the school with us, or let us come with you. Stop trying to separate yourself from us just to protect us all, because you need help too. So Jiro tries to help him out, and she brings up, hey, you remember when you helped me organize my notes? That really meant a lot to me. I appreciate it so much, even if it seemed like a small gesture to you. Ojiro brings up, hey, remember when you got mad on my behalf when Shinso brainwashed me, and then you remember I was important?
I love this because I understand in universe it's only been like a year. It's actually a relatively recent event for them. But in the terms of the manga, this was like 5 fucking years ago. And it's just one step away from Oboro being like, remember that time you passed me in the hallway and you called me, hey, you said, hey, Oboro? And I was like, that's not my name, but you got close. It meant a lot to me. It meant a real lot to me, Deku.
Let me just dig through here. I'll find it. Hang on. Let me find the important moment between us. Oh, it's all the way at the bottom.
Remember that time we both went up to the buffet at the same time? We both got chicken, and you were like, "Looks good," and I was like, "Sure it does." Deku, come back.
That is literally how I ran into Tim Tebow one time when I was going to Ward. That's how this feels. Like, no, we were at the same class. No, we go to school together. Come on, man. So long ago. But Deku says, no, if I'm close to you guys, All For One will take you all away from me, so I had to leave. And he's thinking about how during the fight that he had against Shigaraki, Aizawa cut off his own leg so that he wouldn't die, and Bakugo got hurt. So, understandable. Those are quite recent events to hone in on. And also there was the whole thing where, they tried to find All For One, and he set off a bomb that hurt no one. So
no, the bomb was terrifying. Remember when all the characters talked about it next week? They're like, man, sure is glad we all escaped from that bomb.
Tokuyami gets into it. Sato says, we don't really have an established relationship, but I care about you because I'm a good friend. And I will not give you food dye for Aries candy apples. You don't come back. It's a good buddy. Pointing out the whole I cook food and bake goodies thing that he does. That is kind of his one quality as a character. They end up knocking Deku into a corner, and there is this weird device that Yayorozu has summoned up. She's, I guess, got some much more creative means of dealing with people because she has a clamp and a helmet that will force someone to go to sleep. I guess you could just do that. I know that there's like a thing. Like there are like devices that are somewhat like this.
Yeah, it's
but
like,
it's
like a
very
crowbar.
weird thing.
You hit someone in the back of the head with it, they go right out.
It's a little bit of a okay, it's fine, but he starts.
It's the Green Lantern problem. When you can make anything, you kind of painted yourself into a weird corner.
Yeah. I've never thought of that, but yeah, that is kind of Momo's thing, is that she can create basically anything. So, yes. So she gets into it. Kaminari gets in there as he keeps on struggling, and it's like, you really need, you are. We don't have much in common, honestly, but you're my buddy, and I can't use my power on you because that will be a little too violent because we're trying to talk you down, as opposed to let's shock him and then talk to him when he wakes up later. Shoji gets involved. Tokoyami tries to wrap Dark Shadow around Deku like this big shell, and he says, repurposing Dark Shadow's offense in service of defense was a concept birthed by you, Midoriya. Okay, that's nice. Okay. Remember when we were at the sports festival? Yeah, that's going dig back. Look, Tokoyami, you're more important than Ojiro. You don't need to dig this back. And then Kaminari's like, you need a bath.
The best moment. You're stinky. You smell, Deku. Take a bath. Come back to the hero school.
You don't have to worry about protecting us. It's okay. We're your friends, and we're strong. We're here to protect you. Also, really, take a bath.
Would you have liked this chapter more if they had all showed up with like scrub brushes and soap, and the whole fight was them just mercilessly scrubbing him?
That one episode of Powerpuff Girls where Buttercup really needs to take a bath.
Yeah,
exactly like that. Yeah.
I would be even happier if just one character was holding their nose while they talk to him, because they're just like, Deku, we've shared so many memories together, but oh my goodness.
They've got all these things there trying to hold him down, but Deku still breaks out of it, and he keeps on trying to run away, and he's just thinking to himself, "Oh, I get it. I get you're all worried about me, but the reason I know that deep down is because my danger sense isn't going off. I know that you guys aren't maliciously attacking me. You're all doing this because you care about me. Except for Bakugo. I'm getting mixed feelings from him right now, but but he tries to get away, and he's like, just leave me alone, and Todoroki summons a giant wall of ice in front of him that he just runs into, which is kind of great. And Todoroki says, you seem like you've got a really heavy burden on your shoulders right now, so much that you can't even let yourself cry, which seems like a burden you should share with the rest of us. All right, Todoroki, we know you're the cool character, but you don't have to rub it in our faces. And then Tsuyu speaks up, and she's there. And she brings up the time that, she tried to tell everyone not to go and save Bakugo, and then she cried about it afterward and stuff. And she says, look, you matter to me. You're my friend. And when we're scared, we tremble together. When times are tough, we cry together. So if you're dead set on being some comic book superhero, then Class A won't let you live that fantasy alone. She doesn't do anything while she says this. She's just hanging on the wall. But that's the moment that the chapter ends on, is just on her just saying this line, which is why I guess the cover color page at the very beginning was that the chapter is actually about Tsuyu, even though she only shows up at the very, very end. But she does have the biggest line in it, so.
Well, she was the one who's making the charisma check to get him out of this.
Yes, yes.
Everyone else is setting up the advantage for her.
She gets a massive plus to charisma when she's talking to fans on the internet, though. So
yeah,
yeah,
they like that frog butt.
Listen, when you go to see Batman v Superman, you know that's not really what the movie's about, but you want to see them fight a little bit, and some people like that, some people don't. I think it's fine to see the heroes fight each other, even if you know there's no real like stakes. They're not gonna kill each other, right? It's fine for what it is.
I enjoy this look at Class 1A, and there's a couple moments that get brought up that I was like, all right, these are nice touches. It is interesting you give a focus to characters like Ojo, who legitimately have not really shared a particularly strong moment with the main character at any point in this like 400 chapter series. But, you know, you wanted to do it. I'm curious to see if they give Mineta a scene. He's just like, Deku, let's go peep into some showers together or something like that. Like,
or it's going to... So I'm trying to think of the characters that didn't get featured in this, because when I started reading through this, I was like, oh, it's like basically one character a page is being featured in this. I wonder if they're just going to get through literally everyone in the class by the end. But Uraraka hasn't, Anita hasn't, and they're, you know, Deku's two closest friends, so they're probably going to get stuff at the end. But also, there are minor characters, yeah, like Mineta and like Hagakure, who
Ayama.
I'm curious about. Yeah, and I'm just kind of curious, like, how things are going to go with like Hagakure. Is she just going to say, like, hey, remember that one time we talked about how I'm basically naked in my superhero costume? Anyway,
here's a stick of deodorant.
Conversation together. So, yeah, it is one of those things that it's nice to see Class 1A actually featured in this way that showcases each of them individually and together, but it does also throw into focus like, oh yeah, some of them really haven't gotten any focus at all, have they, in the entire 320 chapters of this series that they've been around. So.
All right. Well, speaking of series that have 300 chapters, Undead Unluck doesn't. It only has 72. That's why we're going to be talking about number 72, Sincere.
It's chapter 320.
Yeah. You could do that. That's the way words work in this series for some reason. So we open with Andy, who is looking real tired next to his little communication device. And everyone around him's like, oh, wow, you've been up like 3 days. You know, it's not like, you know, the thing's going to pop in or anything like that. And he's like, no, I think he's just waiting because he believes that Fuko's going to call any moment now. And we cut over to Fuko, who is, having her like brain waves read with Tella and his various different communication devices, and basically nothing is interesting happens in this conversation. He's just like, oh, yep, it's good. I didn't touch you, by the way, because I know how your unlock thing works. But Fuko starts explaining how this facility works, how there's like a tower, and on each floor is a different member of Union, or not Union, Under rather, who is guarding it, and she's been waiting for this moment right here when Tella is finally given permission to go to sleep, because that's when she can break free. And she realizes, yeah, the whale has to go up for air once a day around noon. I'm going to make my move then. There's a hole that looks like it reaches to the outside. Clothy can help me send a message. He's going to turn into a communication device. I know a couple people are kind of on my side, but the rest of them probably aren't, but I think I can make this work. So she goes for it. The first person she runs into is Latla, who tries to like stop her, and then Fuko just like touches her in the belly, and it causes enough unluck to like drop her through the floor. So she's getting a little bit better at kind of focusing her unluck. But then she runs into a new character, one of the characters we were introduced to before. I don't know did they give her a name at some point?
Kururu.
And she uses her power Unchaste. She says, true love is sincere, and it's going to stop you. She's like, yep, now you're my...
She says a rhyme, Chris. True love is sincere. Infatuation is mere veneer.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a rhyming gimmick. I'm going to say a big no on that one.
Did that
rhyme in the Japanese as well? Did the translator had to go the extra mile for that?
Yeah, they do that all the time. I'm almost 100% certain. I think they retroactively went back and started changing the way Spring talks because they realized Spring was talking in a 757 verse. So, yeah, they have to shift those things around. So she's like, yep, now you're my captive. Normally I worked as an idol. I couldn't use my ability there. That wouldn't be fair. So I can make fans even without this power. You're needed in order to kill God, aren't you? Then give yourself. Fuko just runs straight past her. And she's like, oh, wait, how can you move? And I do like it because they basically just explain her ability is like, okay, if she speaks to you, it does a specific pose and gesture, then whoever looks at her will immediately become captive of her and try to bum rush her. But there are two counters to it. First is if you don't know romance at all. But the second is if you have someone who's truly in your heart. And obviously for Fuko, we know who that is. It's Andy. But she also points out that her power doesn't work on Rip. So low-key, we just found out Rip does have feelings for Latla. It's definitely there. I mean, they also wear coordinating outfits, so it's clear they're definitely into each other. But and the chapter ends with Fuko getting blasted out of Kane, activating Clothy, and contacting Andy. So there you go.
Yeah. In true Undead Unluck fashion, they kind of set something up 3 chapters ago that she's already done. So I was like, "Hey, good job, Fuko. Yeah. let's move on to the next thing," and that's how we do.
She speed ran that dungeon. There's
She really
multiple
did.
floors that are guarded by people with special powers. I love my boyfriend. Bye. Honestly, get it, girl.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
You bringing up the fact that Spring's going to be talking in haiku just makes me love him even more.
He's
so,
the best. He's a giant.
Might give him my MVP this week, even though he hasn't shown up in this chapter. So he got mentioned.
He did. He was. Yeah, he is mentioned. All right, Nick. Before we start talking about Boruto, we have had a dirty habit of spending way too much time talking about Boruto, mostly because we dunk on it. But I am saying up right now a 10-minute timer. We cannot talk about this chapter for more than 10 minutes. I am putting a stop to it this week.
He's kind of planning on speed running in this anyway. So we are going to start off talking about Boruto number 60, A Place to Belong. I want to feel like I'm close to something real. So we start off with a color page of Damon, the bratty kid that is Ada's quote-unquote little brother, and his color design is even worse. I hate him even more for having seen his color scheme.
The moment I saw the color scheme, I was like, oh, so he's the protagonist of the new Yu-Gi-Oh series? Because it's just as obnoxious and painful to look at as humanly possible. He has teal hair with pink stripes, bright red clothing, and then yellow fingernails and irises. And I was like, this is too much. You put too many colors into one character.
Garish. There's not a lot of Naruto characters I would call garish, but he is garish. So
what about Gary? And you want to give him like a fun, affectionate nickname. You're like, hey, Garish.
Yeah, well, because, he sells...
Gara. You could also call him Garish. Like, hey, Gary, what's Gary? Garish, what are you doing over there?
Great use of your 10 minutes, guys.
Shikamaru and Sai
Still
and
8.5.
Shikamaru and Sai and Ibiki, for some reason, are talking about Code's abilities and how cool they are. And they say that, like, yeah, he leaves these claw marks everywhere. Apparently, they're not straps; they're claw marks. They're straps.
No, but he scratches things and leaves his stupid strap behind as claw marks, essentially. Because they're absolute. There's no way you can tell me it's a scratch across his head or something. Like, it's clearly a big dumb strap.
Yes. They say that it is similar to the 4th Hokage, Naruto's dad, Minato's flying Raijin. We saw that in a flashback at one point. He can teleport between things if he fulfills certain conditions. But Ko can just leave these things literally everywhere. And they say that we haven't found any of these claw marks anywhere within Konoha, but we found them in a bunch of other locations they're basically the only lead that we have because we can't really trust anyone else's word that we're getting. So we're basically just going to have to send people out there. And then they're like, and that's going to leave us, thin for people who might come after Kawaki and all the other people related to him.
My favorite moment is they're like, where are you, Code? Like, he could be anywhere. And then we get another scene, but then it'll cut to Code, and he's hanging out at the same fucking bar he's been at for like 6 goddamn months now.
Kawaki is watching this conversation from the Mount Rushmore Hokage thing. Then we cut over to Sumire and Amado, and she's like, what are you planning to do to Kawaki? And he says, well, it's a personal thing. So I'm only going to discuss it with Kawaki. I would rather not share it with you. But don't worry, I've zero intention of doing Konoha wrong, I swear. And then Sumire looks over at a canister, a huge person-shaped canister that is over in the corner. And she's like, what the hell is that? And why haven't we talked about it up to this point? And Amato's like, go away. But he says, all right, I've already run this by Katasuke. After all, sharing tech with your village was a condition of borrowing equipment. This one should become a powerful Konoha ally. Oh my god, he's got vision with him!
I was hoping it would be like a 10-10, but she's got like robot hands, so she could throw like extra shurikens that won't hit anything.
We cut over then to Code's group. Fucking Damon is riding him piggyback, and Code just like, will you get off me? Which is like the most relatable Code has been this entire time around. It's like, can you please tell him to get off me? Then Bug tries to sneak away, and Damon turns and pounces on him. He's like, no, I just want to be left alone!
Go home! Why are you still here?
Then, as Damon has pinned Bug to the ground, claw marks appear because straps appear because Code has clawed at them, but the straps do not touch Damon. They literally stop where he is and then keep on going on the floor behind him. And he spins around his guy's like, huh? And Code immediately realizes, okay, so his reflection ability is instantaneous and it's not willful. It just happens automatically, regardless of if he's focusing on it or not. Damon wants to know, hey, what the fuck? And Code's like, oh, I was just demonstrating my claw marks ability. Check it out. And he pulls Bug through one of the claw marks, and he's like, yeah, I can go through them, but I can also bring one person at a time with me through them. And Damon's like, that's cool. See, this kid gets it. This kid gets how cool Code is. Ada they have more of a conversation, and Damon starts to explain more of his ability at Code's prompting, and Ada's like, no. Don't tell him everything about it. Because it's good that if we keep a few things close to the chest. And there is an implication as they keep talking that Ada has not told him all of her abilities as well. And then we leave the scene on the weirdest, most awful note, which is Damon going, sorry, Code! Big Sis says I can't tell you what my abilities are!
Yeah, I don't know why he's shouting. He's in the same room.
This is why this character was introduced, because we're legitimately just going to be like, okay, maybe Code's not that bad.
Yeah, it's a way to make Code look better. We only have 4 minutes left, Nick. We have to hurry.
We covered Kawaki. People are watching him while he's going through the store, and he remembers what Shikadai told him, that there are rumors going around about him. Then Boruto mentions he's been taking medicine, and he's been on them for a week, and nothing's really been happening so far. Hinata's like, I cooked dinner because that's all I'm good for now that I've gotten married, because in this world of Naruto, women can't do anything when they become adults.
I thought there was an older sister I forgot about, because I was like, that doesn't, no, Hinata looks like she's 12 right there. That can't be her.
Well, she's got a short hairstyle. That's how older women look.
Yeah.
So we go over to Kawaki. He's hanging out in the same Hokage Mount Rushmore thing, and he's just like, oh, he's got rice balls and some water, and that's how he's going to eat dinner. And Naruto's like, come to dinner, kid. And he's like, leave me alone. I like this spot. I like gazing down at the village, but when I look down, I realize there's no place for me anywhere. It's not anyone's fault.
No, there's a hot topic right over there, son. Come with me.
But he's like, and Jigen was right. I mean, Ishiki was right. Okay, if they're acknowledging how confusing that is, I don't feel bad about mixing their names up at all. Thank you. But then Naruto just lifts him up. He's like, you're coming home, son. And they go home, and there's a dinner table laid out as they're going to eat together. And they're like, yeah, a lot of stuff's been happening, so we never actually had like a proper welcome to our home dinner. So we're going to have it. They've got the vase that he broke and then repaired, set up in the middle with some flowers in it, which is nice. Kawaki mentions to Himawari, why don't you just use the one I bought for you? And she's like, well, I chose to use this one instead. So that's nice. She's like, I'm more attached to it now even than before. Then Boruto's like, here, take my headband. And Kawaki's like, isn't this like special to you? Also, I'm not a real ninja. It's like, yeah, but you're a ninja in progress, and I've got Master Sasuke's because he's too cool to wear these. Because as it turns out, a lot of characters look really stupid if you just throw a random thing in the middle of their forehead, as demonstrated by Kawaki wearing it and being like, yeah, this actually looks really stupid on me.
I thought it looked nice.
It seems to split the conversation at the table because Hinata and Himawari are at least nice about it. They're like, oh, it looks good. And Boruto's like, guys, be honest, he looks dorky. Like, you're one to talk, kid. With your stupid... There's no rhyme or reason to the spikes in your hair. I hope you realize that. So, then...
Only a minute and a half left, Nick!
Naruto is in bed and Kawaki's hanging out in his bedroom, and Naruto's like, I don't know, modeling for some underwear magazine or something like that. He's got a t-shirt on, he's got his pajamas on, and he keeps on striking these casual but not really poses while he's in the bed talking about stuff.
With his very small blankets.
Yes. He's like, ooh, it only covers up the crotch. He's wearing pants under there, but all right. But he says, don't worry, we'll find code. And look, if you don't feel like you can be safe here, this is your place. My family, has already accepted you as one of our own. And if you can't feel like you're safe here, then I failed at my job as Hokage. This is Konoha. It's a place where anyone can live at ease. And if anyone feels like they can't, then there is no point in me becoming Hokage. It's a very nice little thing from Naruto.
Yeah.
Boruto's got the karma on his hand, and he's looking at it and thinking about it. Kawaki looks at the headband he got from Boruto, and he thinks about what Amado said to him about getting a new karma that is purely a weapon. And he's like, I don't need no karma. There's still one thing that I can do to protect Konoha and Lord Seventh, and that's the note we end on, with Naruto being asleep.
Austin,
we'll find out what something is next time, presumably.
Austin, we only have 15 seconds. What are your thoughts?
Completely incomprehensible. Couldn't understand a word. The only thing I know about Naruto is there's a character named Sasuke that everyone thinks is hot. That's the only thing I know. I didn't understand a word of this. It could have been an ancient Egyptian.
But you love scrolls.
I love scrolls.
All right,
but
that's
I prefer them in. Oh, okay.
That's it. We no more. We did our 10 minutes. We're done.
Fair enough. Those are the rules.
Feel pretty good about that.
I don't make up the rules, even though I did in this specific situation. We got to move on. All right.
Don't give me a word. Give me a gesture, thumbs up or thumbs down in this chapter, or in the middle. Yeah, it's
like
mostly positive.
45-degree thumb up, basically.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Eden Zero.
Let's talk about Eden Zero, Nick. And Austin.
I did understand this because I understand boobs.
Eden Zero, Chapter 152, Lost Cards. So we open with Homura talking to Creed, I think is his name. And they're basically just like, hey, yeah, we're not your enemy here. We want to work together. We have to stop the All Link. Homura's butt is shocked at one point because there's a panel of her butt with a shock sound effect next to it. So I can only assume that it's the emotion is being felt firmly between those cheeks. And that is why it's positioned that way. Their conversation really doesn't lead to anything. Eventually, Creed just basically is like, yeah, sorry, I caged you up in the fucking forest to planet, but I would never lie to someone as beautiful as you. And, I don't know. Moskowitz turns on cartoons.
You skip past my favorite panels.
Go for it.
She's just giving exposition about robots or whatever, and the camera is placed like down by her crotch,
yeah,
facing up, so her breasts are jutting out above you. And then the next time you see her, it's from behind and looking at her butt. It's like a parody. This is so
Welcome
close to funny.
Zero. Yeah.
Just a little tweak. This could be a great satire of what it actually is.
How would you know she's attractive if you aren't firmly staring at her buttocks or breasts in every panel?
It's so off-putting. Porn exists. You can just type in butt into Google. Just look at a butt. Why are you doing this?
What the Google image results for butt are.
It's got to be better than this.
Oh no, they did actually basically put attractive female butts as the top search result, so I stand corrected.
Hell yeah. All right, America. So they do change the channel, and they cut over to the Lost Card game, which is what we cut over to. And Lost Card is not a complicated game. If you were thinking this was going to be like Hunter x Hunter, where there's an entire arc based around card mechanics that take like 17 chapters to explain and 2 chapters to utilize, and then they never talk about it again, it's not like that. They spend 2 pages explaining the rules. Basically, everyone draws a card. If you draw the higher one, you win, and the loser loses a piece of clothing.
This must be what it's like to read Destroy All Humanity if you don't know anything about Magic the Gathering.
Pretty
It's
much.
Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why. Just play the cards and say your dialogue. Let's move on.
There's a talking fish announcer who's narrating the game, apparently. I don't know if this character's new, but he does just show up and starts narrating the game, so I guess he's a character now. And Rebecca's like, cool, this game's pretty simple. I definitely can use Cat Leaper at least twice to win games here. She loses the first round, and she's like, oh, man. So, boom, her arm covers are gone. Because remember, you lose a piece of clothing, and it just disappears.
That's 2 pieces of clothing. I object.
Well, it's the same piece of clothing. Like, if you lose...
As a member of the Committee of
Okay.
Strip Poker Rules, each individual article cannot be lumped into a group.
That is fair. You could say I lose 1 sock, and then the next time you lose another sock.
Yes, you don't take your socks off together. That just because it's convenient doesn't mean it's right.
Well, if I remember from old school wrestling, which of course I do, when the APA beat Trish Stratus in a strip poker match, she took off her entire bra even though she had other clothes on. So I guess you really could just do whatever you want. WWE was really horny back in the day. But not as much as this series, because Rebecca keeps losing. She loses her stocking, she loses her shoes, she loses her little bunny thing. Although Lyra loses one, so she loses her entire pants. And
she could have taken off the jacket first, but she takes it off second.
Yeah, she loses her jacket and that, and I don't know.
Or her choker.
Yeah, and or the glasses. I don't know. They also make a point that she's wearing a swimsuit. I don't know why you needed to explicitly state that, but it is for some horny reason.
Some horny reason should be the name of this. That's a better title.
It's pretty much that. Rebecca loses her shoes and she loses her headband, realizes she's down to just her leotard. So she decides to go back and use Cat Leaper to change up what happened last time. And she does it, but she still loses. And that's when Lyra gets in there and she's like, now you're down to that leotard. By the way, the thing is, I've played this game over 100 times and I've only lost once. The only person that ever beat me was Emperor Nero, and I lost all my clothes and then my left eye. And she leaves us off with a threatening note. You know, after I strip you naked, maybe I'll erase your legs. That's the chapter. Rebecca's trying to rationalize the fact that her Cat Leaper ability isn't working here.
Yeah, they don't actually indicate in any way why it was actually countered this way. So I don't know. It seems like this is the kind of thing that indicates there is something more at work to this game than it appears. Mm-hmm. And then they, instead of leaving on the note of like, how is this happening? How is this even possible? She's just like, I'm going to strip you naked and take your legs away. Like, all right, that's not that. We knew that last chapter, though. This isn't new information. So
I was eternally tickled, though, to read that Emperor Nero was challenged in a game of strip poker and managed.
I mean, okay, I really don't want to though, but dice say I should do it. Okay.
The dice say you take your top off. Let's go.
Daddy, like this.
And there was also a conversation in the Discord about some people being like, wasn't this a character design submitted to Hero? Like, wouldn't you be upset if your main character, like the character you submitted, just kept getting naked? And I was like, no, if you're reading Hero, you probably are so excited that this is what they're being used for.
Look, I don't want to like get too deep into this, but there are many people where if you go online, you will find out that they have original characters that they are very attached to, that they commission adult artists to draw naked and in various naked activities. So it does not surprise me in the least that one of the submitted characters is getting naked. So
there you go.
Yeah,
Austin,
clearly there's an audience for this, I guess.
Austin, I want to hear all your thoughts. I want to hear what you feel about Eden Zero, because I said she's
gonna just gonna try and
Yeah.
act all dignified while you do this.
I sent you this link, and I was like, I'm sorry, we have a really, really horny chapter of Eden Zero this week.
You tried to talk me out of it. You're like, yeah, there's a link to Eden Zero, but you don't really need it. And I was like, no, dog, send it over. And you're like, oh no, it's so horny though. You could have just sent me just a fucking Pornhub link and just said, this is Eden Zero, and I would have been like, yeah, that seems right.
I should have sent you a link to some deviant arts, like Sonic the Hedgehog inflation porn. And you're like, sounds about right.
I don't know why. I guess just for marketability. Like, if you're gonna just do this, why not actually do it? Like, try to be an artist of like eroticism. That's an art form. I respect that. But like, this is just like horny, but with no commitment. I don't know. I can't respect it. Show whole or go home.
Well, maybe next week when one of these two women loses all of their clothes.
And a really nasty bodily injury as well.
Yeah, that's not what I meant by show whole. When you just lose an eye. I should have been more specific. I'm sorry.
All right.
You said it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the Hunters Guild, Red Hood, then.
Yeah, we are.
It's chapter number 4, plans. So it's the plan to take on the quote-unquote smart werewolf, who is now really big because he pumped up his muscles with his regeneration ability. The werewolf is like, okay, this weird smoke prevents me from seeing them and smelling them, but I've got my awesome hearing. I can detect them this way. And so he hears Grim on a rooftop, and so immediately goes after her, attacks her, and he just starts bragging about how awesome his hearing is. Like, yeah, I can hear everyone. I can hear all the villagers in the building hiding away from me, and I can even hear the sound of a finger on a trigger, because over on another rooftop, Velo's got a gun, and so he spins around to him as he's clearly getting his finger on the trigger. Velo fires his gun, and the werewolf blocks it by just putting his arms in front of his face, and he's just like, ow, that hurt. And then he's like, now let me explain. So he says, look, I told you, gunshots don't work on me, and you two are totally exposed. So, okay, you're the decoy, but that's dumb. I'm the hunter. You're not the hunters. You humans are prey. And Grim makes a face that's like, why are you talking right now? But then she just says, try and kill me then. So he's like, what? Well, yeah, I mean, if the bullets don't work on you, you should just regenerate, and then you should eat me. And so he's like, yeah, okay. Oh, no, I can't regenerate. Because, there is a special thing that the hunters have created that prevents werewolves from regenerating. It prevents the regeneration from activating. And we get and see there are 2 ways to kill werewolves. One is to burn them, and the other is to rend their flesh with a certain special metal. And then we cut to an explanation scene where the werewolf is a student in like a full like elementary school uniform, and Grim is the teacher. And I don't know, it's a really weird thing to do, honestly. But so he's like, oh, okay, so you're using silver bullets? And she says, no. Silver does have a property that slows werewolf regeneration, but it's too light, so you can't use it in bullets. It won't pierce a werewolf's hide. The material we use is...
You can't even say it.
Wolfonium!
If you came to me and said, I have a series for you, the characters shoot Chekhov's guns with bullets made of wolfonium, I would say, get out of my office. I would say, don't come back. I'm giving security a picture of you.
Yeah, but you have to understand that we live in a world where the super rare element that we have to obtain from this planet is unobtainium, and that would be $2 billion. So.
We need to really stress that it, like, for all the dunking on Avatar gets, it does not get nearly enough for naming the rare material they have to obtain unobtainium.
It's a ballsy move for sure. This series, maybe they should lean into this goofy shit. I feel like the straight action isn't really anything, but if they get weirder with it, I might be into it.
Yeah, if it gets dumber and dumber like this, then I might be starting to get on board with this series.
It is an odd thing because it does seem to be slowly heading in that direction, because we started off pretty serious with this series, but as we've gotten along, like, Grim has gotten a little bit goofier, and shortly after she demonstrates, like, see, we need this special Chekhov series, and so this gun will kill you, and the werewolf, as soon as she pulls the gun out, just grabs the barrel of the gun and bends it up so it can't be used, and she's just like, oh, and that's just kind of it. And it's like, so I think that this might be like one of my favorite things that's happened in this series so far, is she's like, this gun is super awesome and it'll kill you.
And then she just pulls out another one. She's just like reaches into her coat and she has another gun.
Like, how many of those guns do you have? I have a bag of holding. Fuck you. So the werewolf's like, all right, well, thanks for the rambling lecture. But he's like, I'll go, eat the kid, and then I'm gonna come back and eat you. You look like it'll be more fun to kill. And then he gets like really, really gratuitous, like, I'm not gonna swallow you whole. No. You're gonna be the roast. The kid will be soup. I'm gonna cut you up, and I'm gonna make a full course meal out of you. All right, it's great to deal with patience you have, but okay. So Grim says, yeah, all right. And where is this kid you're gonna kill? And it turns out that Velo is no longer in the position that he was, 5 minutes ago while this lecture was going on. But he did make sure to set up a little lean-to with the gun on it, just in case, I don't know. And the werewolf realizes, wait a minute, I can smell now, and I can't smell the kid. And Grim pulls out another gun from her bag, and she fires at the werewolf's legs, and he slumps over. And then we get a flashback at this point, and she says, see, this is how Wolfonium works. But even with Wolfonium bullets, inflicting a mortal wound will be hard. So find a way that will beat clever werewolves. And so Velo says, wait a minute, you called those clams you used for our smokescreen gas shells. That means their mist is flammable, right? And she says, gas shells emit flammable gas, yes, but it'll sink. It's heavier than air. But Velo says, I have an idea.
Does he say it like JFK does?
I have an idea. This will be my voice from now on whenever we read this series. I hope you're fine with that, Chris.
Die, werewolf.
Grim starts lecturing the werewolf and being like, all of this was a ploy to buy time. I mean, you could have fooled me. The gun, the blabbing. It was all meant to hold you here and buy time. The moment you picked this village, your fate was sealed. The victor in this battle of wits is Velo. And it turns out that in the hut below them, Velo has stuck a bunch of the gas shells in the fireplace, which are filling up the Hold on. I don't know how this works. So he sets off the flintlock of the gun, and it strikes a spark, which shoots fire up the chimney. But if the gas sinks, I don't know how this works. Does he have something blowing it up? Is there a fan?
It's the spark from the ignition from the flintlock.
But if the gas sinks, wouldn't it just go into the room that he's in and kill him?
Well, yeah, it looks like it's around his ankles. You can see the gas. Also, can't the werewolf hear a finger on a trigger? How does he not hear someone setting a gas trap under him? It's very selective super hearing.
Just like, and that is what Wolfonium is. It's a cool name, isn't it, for a cool thing? It's like, hold on, what's that noise below us?
Well, they should just keep saying, "Oh no, I keep tripping. Oh no, I'm tripping again." Trying to cover his sound.
They make a point that they're like, you got to learn how to deal with clever werewolves. I'm like, I don't know, this one's kind of dumb. He's done a lot of dumb things so far.
Fire shoots up the chimney and burns the werewolf, and also launches him off the roof to the ground, I think. Anyway, he's super dead now. So Grim congratulates Velo on a job well done. saying, yeah, good job turning the chimney into an impromptu cannon. It was rough around the edges, but still a good plan. One that didn't involve any blood or tears. I mean, you did just kill a sentient being, so I don't know about that. She takes out a hood and puts it on his head. Okay. The villagers come out and are like, "Oh, did you kill the werewolf?" And Vela says, "Yeah, but I had to blow up the house to do it. It was abandoned, but I don't know about the house around it might be damaged." But they interrupt him and sweep him up into this big group hug. And they're like, "Oh, thank goodness you're okay. Everyone is okay, except for the people that the last werewolf killed. But don't worry about that." And they say, "Oh, you've grown up, fellow. You kept our hamlet safe, and everyone survived, except the mayor and his wife, who was a werewolf, it turns out." So, and then we cut away then to a witch-looking woman who refers to the village as like super boonies. And there is a giant werewolf, I guess.
Kumamura.
You're right, it is Kumamura.
And a witch character that all the Europeans are going to be going crazy over because she has fangs. And the Europeans on our Discord server are very horny.
Okay, it's just the Discord. I thought that was just like a widely known European stereotype for a second.
The joke is that, Germans love vor and all that. Anyway, so.
Oh, no.
But we have more than just our our German listeners who like the fangs, though. So that's why I say European. Us Americans, North Americans, we're normies, you know. We know what's up. We know it's cool. It's all you Europeans who are crazy.
Yeah, definitely. So Velo starts narrating, saying, "I will never forget what happened that day. So many lives were lost, and all I knew was reduced to ash. It was the day I became a hunter." So I'm sure that all the villagers are going to be fine now that he saved them. So.
Yeah, he did it. He saved the day. Yep. Series is done.
Hold on, it might be about 3 months too early.
Hey, it's doing very popular. The lead character has a gigantic chest.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, that's the primary reason it seems to be popular.
Look, people like what they like. Sports series do well because people want to bang the dudes in them, so, you know.
I mean, you understand that. So, I guess it makes sense. Austin, you read this whole thing. What do you think about it?
I read all 4 of the chapters in like one sitting, and a lot of it's just very utilitarian, setting up the werewolf rules of this universe. It's establishing kind of how things work. So it's like there's not that much characterization to grasp onto. But like I said, I think if this series gets weirder and stupider, I might be more interested. It has the kind of Bloodborne-esque, like, what if werewolves were like twisted, dude? What if werewolves were sick and edgy? Which I kind of like, even though Grimm's fairy tales but darker is like played out. The Grimm's fairy tales are already super dark. You can't really go that much further than the actual things. But if it just gets weirder and grosser and dumber, I might be interested. If they just play it straight and they're like, let's just kill Grimm's fairy tale characters, I'm out. So
the other thing you could do, Austin, instead of waiting for that, is you could just read Chainsaw Man. So
everyone keeps telling me that. I guess I will.
If weird and gross is what you're looking for,
and I know the one girl has fangs, so I'm already horny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you do have a little European in you. That does make sense.
Although generally, she's not the one that people tend to be horny for. They're just like, she's just the best character.
Well,
so.
Those people have dom fetishes. That's why they're horny for that character.
That's the highest respect like an anime fan can give you, is be like, I like you so much, I'm not horny for you. I just like you and respect you, lady. You're cool.
No, people are horny for power. It's just that they're horny for someone else more. So.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you guys, you think this is gonna be successful enough to keep going then, even though you don't seem particularly.
I think it's successful enough to survive a little bit longer. I don't know if this is going to have a long run in it, but it is going to certainly get a longer run than the series we'll be talking about after Magu-chan.
I think that I'm kind of in the boat that you're at, Austin. I've been for basically the entire time. Like, the first chapter was like, all right, this is intriguing in a way, but since then I've just kind of been waiting for that thing that comes in that actually makes this like good, as opposed to just another series like many of its ilk that has a slightly different aesthetic. But it will probably have enough time to do that, so we'll see.
It's a nice reminder that Bloodborne exists and it's fucking sick.
It was too hard for me. I got scared.
Aw.
I was like, I don't want to go down this hallway. There's like 3 things. And then I stopped playing.
Oh fuck.
We gotta do like some horror playthroughs with you playing them or something, or me playing them. I hate horror games. Magu-chan, God of Destruction, Chapter 52, the conclusion of the gods. We open with I've forgotten her name. The Sleepy Time.
Dosho something.
Doshu, let's just call her. She is chilling out, and BS finds her, and she's just like, "Hey, go away, illusionary incense," and BS barks, but Izuma is there, and he's got the fan that he's been using as a weapon this whole time, and uses it to cast a blast of wind that blows all the mist away, and then it turns out that Gula is there. And oh gosh, I keep forgetting this one's name
Zonzage.
because he has 2 names that they call him. So Zonzage is there as well. Gula grabs Noshu in his claws and just kind of covers her up so that she can't emit any more mist. And she's like, "What's going on? It's dark in here." And then it turns out Zonzage is in there with her, and he just goes, "Ah, she's too close!" And it does some barbs that make her go into despair. And so they've beaten her very, very handily like this. And we get a closer look at Izuma, and it turns out he's got a clothespin over his nose so he doesn't inhale the mist.
Yeah, good job.
He would still inhale it through the mouth, but it's fine. It's fine.
I don't think that's how air works, Nick. Once you close up one hole, it can't go anywhere else. Where else would it go? Just think about it. Science.
One of the Morpholactistas with them notes that Muscar's flesh is nearing its limit. And we get a shot of the battle as Muscar has reverted to, "So, Andros, you show your true form." And he's a big, giant cloak that has a huge eye in the face hole. He's still got the hole in his torso from where Magu blasted him. And but now he's super large as well. He's way bigger than Magu in his released form.
Is that Magu-chan's usual logo?
I believe that is what they've been using more recently.
Okay. I was gonna say I don't remember noticing that before.
It's been a couple of chapters, but it is quite recent that they've been doing it, I think. Yeah, it's very nice, and I think it's just another indication like Magu-chan's doing really well. So we'll do stuff like give it an official English logo and stuff like that. Muscar is definitely on his back foot. Magu blasts away his arm when he tries to do something, and Magu notes, "Now that you have lost your powers, you cannot maintain that body. You're an eyesore, Muscar." So mean. But Muscar says, "I don't care. We're wicked gods. We're monsters. That's what the humans call us." And we get a flashback to that kid that Muscar models his appearance after, who apparently approached him and was like, "Oh, you're a nice god. Will you do something? I'm sure you'll bring happiness to us." And Muscar was just kind of like, "Want me to be your god? Then I shall grant one prophecy. You would do well to leave this land at once." But when the boy takes this information back to his village, and then a disaster happens, like an earthquake happens or something like that, they're like, "Oh, because the brat is utilizing wicked gods to call forth the disaster, to take your revenge," which we don't really know the whole context of that, but they treat his prophecy as instead a threat. And so Muscar says, you're supposed to be like me, Magu, in the present. And Magu's like, "I do not have the patience to listen to your tedious complaints. I'm not interested in the backstory. Go away."
Can I say, reading this, I absolutely always hear this voice as Nick, because my first exposure to the series is your recaps. So this character just has Nick voice.
There's a growing force that want Nick to officially voice this character in some capacity. So if you're out there, anime people. Mr. Anime. Mr. Crunchyroll. I don't know who the fuck controls
Please,
it.
Mr. Anime is my father.
If anyone out there, knows of I don't know, a way that I can get a job for an anime dub without any experience.
Yeah,
you just cut together the clips of you recapping it, just all the different.
I was gonna say you just start up an anime abridged show, and eventually it happens.
Oh man, if only it were 2010. So
the standards were lower back then.
We then cut into Ruru's dream. She's still dreaming, of course, about her dad, and they're getting dinner ready and stuff. But Ruru spots a little container of natto, and she says, "Dad, where's Magu-chan?" And of course, her parents don't know about Magu because in this time, she had never met Magu. But they're like, "What are you talking about? Who's Magu-chan?" And she just says, "He's my friend." But she also says, "He's a god of destruction and my family. He's always by my side. He's my very precious friend. Ever since you passed away, Dad." And the dream starts to crack and crumble away as she looks at her father. And then she realizes, "Oh, I get it. This is just a dream. Thanks, Dad. I'm glad I got to see you again." And her father says in response, "You've grown so big, Ruru. Go to him. He's waiting for you." Which
don't forget to pick up milk.
Yeah.
And then the dream fades away.
By the way, if you find the thing in my cabinet, don't show your mother.
Delete my browser history. Bye.
I don't know if it goes back that far. Okay.
Blast my cash.
Throw away my Eden Zero volumes.
Anyway, kind of ruining the little touching moment there, but that's fine. I was going to say, like, the fact that she dreams this makes me wonder if that's just how she knows that her dad would react, or if there's something, I don't know, magical going on, because,
Well, Nick, I think we have an answer for this. We have to go back to 2014's Inception. And if the top is still spinning, then it means everything was a lie. And if it's not, I didn't actually see the movie. I'm making things up at this point. It means
you're lying. You've seen
the wall.
Inception.
I have not. I haven't.
I don't believe you.
I haven't. I don't watch. I didn't watch it. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to say I didn't watch movies back then. I watched so many movies back then. I just didn't see Inception.
I saw Inception twice in the theater, and the second was purely so that I could hear people react to the ending. Where it was like,
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a Christopher Nolan movie since The Dark Knight. Well, no, I guess I watched The Dark Knight Rises, but I try to forget.
I've heard you do Bane too many times.
Your entire shtick is Bane. You're famous for your Bane. What are you talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I just watched the commercials.
No, Chris is like, no, I just came up with that. What's Bane?
I just invented it like a funny. Did someone do that? Oh my god, that's so weird. But it's very cool. I invented it, so I should get money, right?
For Bane impressions.
Someone pay me.
In the present, so Ruru wakes up and she's got the natto that Magu left for her, which is very cute. And she's like, "I have to go now," because she realizes that Magu needs her. But he doesn't really. Magu has got Muskar on the ropes, and he's going to kill that boy. So Muskar has shrunken down back into his usual human form, although it's not doing very well, and he's still got a bunch of holes in him. So Magu says, "Return to chaos where you belong. Your esteemed god of destruction bids it. I shall grant you your destruction." But Muskar in this moment is actually happy because he's like, "Yeah, this is who Magmanuik is. If it means getting your influence and power back, I don't mind. The ultimate wicked god who rules over all." But instead of granting Muskar even that victory, Ruru shows up in the nick of time, and she hugs Magu around the waist from behind as he's getting his I-beam of destruction ready. And she says to him, "Come on, stop. If you do this, you really will become an evil god." And seeing her, Magu starts to calm down. And Ruru says, I don't really know what's going on, but stop fighting, okay? Look, I brought you natto. And immediately Magu just shrinks back down into his usual form, like, perfect! And he just starts eating it and just stops trying to kill Muskar.
So cute. I love his little, just holding him like a little baby. Just got like a little guy.
And so Muskar who was about to die 2 seconds ago and looked kind of happy about it, looks at this and is just like, how are you able to do this to Magu-chan? And Ruru just looks at him and goes, Lord Mu, stop calling me that!
I have a cooler name!
So he just starts going on a rant saying, we're wicked gods. You shouldn't be able to coexist with us. Stop trying to act friendly. You're driving me crazy. Why do you think I made you go to sleep? And of course, Ruru, being Ruru, is just like, oh, so you made me have that nice dream where I got to see my dad. Thanks, Lord Mu. I could never be afraid of you because at the end of the day, you're a pretty nice god. And Muskar, when he looks at her, reaching out to him, he sees the same kid that was in his flashback. And Muskar is like, no, this is why I hate humans. They're foolish and helpless and make me realize how empty I am. Aww. And he actually reaches back towards Ruru with his little sleeve, and she's going to take his hand, and she says, Lord Mu, you stop fighting too. Become friends with us. Aww. What a beautiful moment. With friendship and understanding, she made this god who was so bent on their destruction be friends. Isn't that nice? I'm going to turn the page now. I'm just waiting for this moment. Me, the worst character in all of Shonen Jump.
Are you sure there's a couple like weird like perverts in Shonen Jump right now?
Oh.
She's better than all of them.
So she holds his little sleeve hand, and Uneris appears and uses pulsing providence as the bracelet she gifted to Ruru glows with a dark energy. And she says, I was waiting for this moment, the very moment when you would let your guard down. I always knew Ruru would eventually make you lower your guard. That's why I worked a spell into the bracelet I gave her for her birthday. A super simple sealing gem. I can't seal you away completely, but... And it puts Muskar into his, quote, re-weakened form. So he's got a little chibi monster form now, which, admittedly, is super cute. So that's nice. And he's, of course, very pissed off about this. Because he's like, it took me so many years to get back to that form I was in before. I won't forget this. I'll never forgive you, as he flies away. And Unera says, I made his body like that so we'd never have to take him seriously again.
Good job, Uneris. Seemed like the problem was about to solve itself.
So Ruru could have solved the problem permanently, and instead you made it only slightly less bad. But yeah, so this actually made me think. So my initial reaction and my still overall feeling of this is Uneris is awful. She ruins everything. Literally, we had this moment where Ruru was going to freaking bond with the only antagonist this series has and totally neutralize him in what would have been a very sweet moment. And Uneris shit all over it with her stupid bullshit and trolling everything. But then it actually literally got me to think, is there a Makima going on with Uneris? Is that it? Where it's just like she's the villain the entire time, and honestly, it's kind of obvious from the get-go, but it just gets more obvious as time goes on that she is just holding all the strings and is actually doing everything, because she's the one who sealed all these gods who turn out to actually be nice people away. She's the one who's working with them and opposing them and everything like that. She's the only one who actually has all of her power. So is she just the final boss? Is that what's going on with this? Or is this a series where I shouldn't think about that too much because this is mostly just a cutesy comedy series?
I've just been thinking about Butakun from last chapter. Honestly, like that's just like that scene's just running through my mind. He has like little monkey symbols that he's doing like flips, and that's the only thing my mind's been thinking about for like the last 2 weeks.
That puts a very different spin on the one weakness of Muskara Fate is noise.
He's a little baby, though. He doesn't know how much noise he's making.
This is just a series about little babies. I love it.
Yeah. This is Rugrats, but with superpowers.
This is the chapter I read where I was like, oh, I should just read this whole thing and just keep up with it. Like, I'm not really a manga reader that much, but like, this is great. I love these little guys. Y'all are very annoyed at this character. I haven't been exposed to them enough to get annoyed, but it's like, it seems like her job is to add more Pokemon to the world. So I'm into it. She keeps de-digivolving these people so they can be added to the comedy group.
All right, Nick. Like pick up your spirit, because we're going to be talking about the fun and exciting world of Neru, Way of the Martial Artist.
Skill 3, Nagi wa Shinryu. They're having the spear versus sword fight, and spear dude uses a thing called 5,000 flowers.
Now, Nick, hold on a second. You're using your I don't like this voice. How can you not love this?
All right, you're right. Let me change things up. So Jokuro then uses his spear technique, 5,000 flowers, and goes to beat up Neru is his name. That's his name. I've remembered this character's name from seeing it in the title just now. And so
it's amusing because if it wasn't the title of the series, no one would know this character's name.
So he blocks it with his sword, and then he kicks his foot up, and he grips the shaft of the spear in his foot, and Jokuro is shocked because they're like, wait a minute, I can't move. Somehow he's able to just hold it in the air in place with just his toes. Neru goes in and tries to attack him, but he dodges out of the way of the sword strike, which would have left him a double amputee. Let's be real. They're using real weapons. Neru was trying to mutilate him. So Jokuro's like, what the hell was that? How could his toes be that strong? And people start to go, oh, he's got weird feet. And another person's like, yeah, he's got like fallen arches. And I did actually look back at previous chapters of the series, and to its credit, Neru's feet have always been drawn this weird way, where he's got too much flesh on the bottom. Turns out it was an actual decision in the design of his character.
Foot foreshadowing.
Yeah. Unbelievably, I did not focus on the feet too much prior to this. I don't know why anyone would.
There's a couple sickos out there who saw this coming.
No,
they knew immediately.
So
Quentin Tarantino was watching this. He was just like, "Ooh, those feet are going to be something special." But he didn't pick it up either. He was talking about something else.
Hold on. Let's just put a wig on him and perfect. Okay. So,
oh no.
All right, I could drink wine off of those. So.
Oh, fuck. I hate that.
So. Jokuro's sister, whose name I've already forgotten, says, "Have you heard of Nagi wa Shinryu?" Yes, it's a common phrase everyone uses, but it's in the Book of Disciplines. And so someone immediately goes to the library and grabs a copy of the book, and people are like, "Why was he barefoot?" And so it turns out she had a conversation with Neru's friend, who's like, "Oh yeah, he's always barefoot. He takes off his indoor shoes at school, and he's just always using his feet for things." And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pedal without using my hands. I'm gonna chop wood with my feet. I'm gonna sweep the floor with my feet. I'm gonna carry water with my feet. I'm gonna write with my feet." Things people do. But he increased his foot strength. And people were like, "Oh, apparently this peaked during the mid-Edo period, and it died out ages ago. It's characterized by predominant use of feet in battle."
The foot period. That's what the history books remember it as now. There was just a period of Japanese history where everyone was a nasty little gremlin. Just doing foot stuff.
They say that the progenitor of the style lost both his arms, and so all the students of the school went about barefoot and were known for having flat foot, which is a thing that usually you see when people have no arch in the bone structure of their foot. But it can also be caused by too much muscle development. The muscle gets built up so strong that it lays flat on the ground instead of the foot being arched.
See, Nick, Trump didn't avoid all those wars because he was a coward. He did it because he had extra strong feet.
He was a master of the Nagawashi Ryu.
If he went to war, then it would have been he would have outpaced all the other soldiers by holding his machine gun in his toes. So that's why they couldn't let him in. So then we get more narration as he keeps fighting this guy that says the foot is said to be the body's second heart. I have literally never heard that in my entire life up to this point.
It's actually a pseudoscience, like crystal healing nonsense thing where people say like, "Oh, it can heal your conditions by apply pressure to your feet." It's like it's fake, but there are people who believe that. I don't know.
It plays a key role in sending blood to the entire body, which I have heard of before because of One Piece, because that's how Luffy goes second gear.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about One Piece.
Oh my
God. We're wasting so much time. We could be talking about One Piece.
So he goes and dances in and attacks Jokero, and he's using the girl's moves to attack him. And he's like, I gotta go faster. But then as he lunges in, he sees the guy as a skeleton going, nice, you're good. And there's a flash of light, which is how all martial arts techniques are seen by actual martial artists. And then he falls over onto the ground, and the guy has his spear at his throat. And so he wins. And he looks down, and he's like, oh my God, just my clothes are shredded. What kind of martial arts series is this where the clothes get shredded? They don't fall off of him in one go. And
it's just his hog just pops out. It's
what kind of lame martial arts series is this?
Fan service for everyone.
So people are like, oh man, you gave Joker a really good match. That was great. And then Neru just points at Joker and is like, is everyone here that good? And people are like, well, those two are the Haibas. See, they're of the Haiba Unsuryu lineage, the heirs of that super famous Sojutsu lineage. Ah, yeah, super famous Sojutsu lineage, yes. It's just like that super famous Magic the Gathering deck with the stuff you were saying before.
Exactly like that. You nailed it.
So, but they say like, oh yeah, super awesome skills, and Jokero says something really weird, which is skills to wound, skills to kill. It sounds violent, but all the techniques that remain to this day are skills that were crafted for survival. Whether or not you consider the two to be the same is up to you to decide, which seems to just be a complete non sequitur to everything people were talking about. But okay, so Neru gets up and he's like, oh yes, yes. Oh, I'm so hardy for martial arts. I gotta headbutt this wall. Oh, I want to go to this school. Let me go to this school and let me fight you again. Yes.
It'd be the best if everyone was like, well, we were going to until you got up abruptly and slammed your face into the wall, and now we don't know what's going on.
They just quietly put the application in the garbage while he's doing this. No, we changed our minds.
So they go over all that, and then Joker is like, well, I mean, if you want to fight me again, if you get the top score on the entrance exam, I'll think about it. Which is such a, like, all right, asshole, Mr.
Also, I guess he's the dean as well. He controls admissions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it does imply that he's not going to let him leave the school in addition to not sparring with him. You're right. I had to check to make sure he was holding the spear next to him at this point to make sure he didn't shove it up his own ass in order to be like, well, if you get the top score on the entrance exam, I will consider it. So Neru's like, all right, well, they test for physical skill. No problem. Oh, yeah, they test for academics, too. And so Neru's like, no, but I don't do that. I can't do that by doing it with my feet. That doesn't make me any smarter.
That's the secret. He's like cramming for the physics test, and so he's like, but if I read with my feet, I will unlock levels of physics heretofore untold.
He's like, oh yeah, I got an F for feet.
It's the best score in martial arts.
That's the end of the chapter. Everyone's like, oh, next year's gonna be fun because this kid's gonna join our school probably.
No, likey. The art in this is great.
Why wasn't this chapter 1? Like, I feel like this is what sets Neru apart as a martial artist and not his like I draw things out thing. And I feel like this is the point we should have done in chapter 1 and then built up from to then do interesting stuff.
It took too long to learn to use a foot guy, is what you're saying.
Yes, I prefer to have body parts of main characters accentuated from the word go. look, Grim in Red Hood, you knew right away what her
Yeah.
main physical attributes were. Is all I'm saying.
This story so far has no like characters or ideas that I found particularly interesting, but from the beginning I really liked the art, the Tengu mask fight in the first chapter, and then some of the stuff in here I thought was really cool. That's like my only insight is I think the art is pretty sick, but everything else is boring.
Yeah.
So, Chris, Austin is here for chapter 3. Does that mean he gets to say and if this series gets done in the recap?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You don't seem like you're having fun. I don't know if there's something else you can read instead, maybe you should.
Is there a way? Let me think of if there is a way I can say no with my feet.
Yeah, spell it out. The American feet sign language.
I don't know. Maybe I can make an X with my feet. I don't know. I don't really.
Nick,
I'm
don't give it
wearing
away
socks.
for free. Don't give it away
I'm
for
wearing
free.
socks, but I still don't think that I should lift them up for people. To
Weirdos
see,
will pay
so,
big money for it.
Right.
Nick feet is a Patreon goal, definitely.
It's right. No.
No? All right. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on no.
I was half expecting you to cash in just to make me miserable, Chris.
It's the money in the Frank briefcase! The
Okay, but is this a thing? Are you actually going to do this, or are you just faking me out?
I don't really know. Now that I'm here, I kind of feel challenged. Now I
Do you
feel like
want-
I was going to fake out, but now that I feel like you're challenging me on it, maybe I have to call your bluff.
I don't know, Chris. Do you want to do?
I don't want to get
depends on-
DMC'd. Hold on.
Yeah. Do you want to be Adolf Ziegler, where you wait and wait and wait and wait and have a lot of false cash-ins before you actually do it, or do you want to do every woman who has cashed in the money in the bank in the past 3 years is like next day, baby, same night, baby. Not sitting on this at all.
I have plans. If Neru was more interesting in any way, if it was worse, certainly. If it was better, you were like, no, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm coming back. But as Austin said, there are 0 characters in this series, so I just don't feel like this is. I'm banking that we're gonna get something a little bit worse going forward. So I'm gonna hold on to this baby for a little bit longer. But I wanted to remind you who has the power here.
I got you. I mean, I guess we haven't established that Veto in the Bank is an annual contest or anything, so it's not like you've got a time limit.
I'm just gonna use it.
Just hold on to this. 2052.
Yeah.
Ah, finally.
I'm just gonna wait 3 years and be like, all right, Nick, we gotta go back and read Ayakashi Triangle. It's back, baby. You have to read Matsuri's mom fingered him 4 more times.
And we're just gonna cover it in one go? Nope. We're gonna read it every week from the beginning.
We're starting over, baby.
All right. We're running late, so I'm gonna try and pick up the pace on Dr. Stone. Zeagle's 205, universe of zeros and ones. They've got Sai there. He's super intelligent, and also Ryusui's big brother. And Ryusui's like, oh yeah, he's great. I never just brought him up before or anything. And they're like, why didn't you bring up he was your big brother? Oh, because that's not what I value about Sai. I value his first-rate talent. Is that so wrong? Which is a little bit like, okay, Ryusui, you're a little bit okay, fine. You're a little bit weird, but all right. But Sai is like, I'm not a genius, though. I'm not. But we then get a flashback that indicates that he's in class and someone's trying to have him do like long addition, and instead he does in his head multiplication between 2 like 9 or 10 digit numbers to come up with the answer. And Ryusui sees this, and he's like literally a baby with a pacifier who's like, I desire his powers. So, but. Sai just says, like, I mean, come on. I mean, it's mental math. Who cares? You can just have a calculator do the stuff that I'm talented at. A computer could do that in an instant. Or hey, given enough time, anyone could do 10-digit multiplication. And there is a little panel where people are thinking about that, and Chrome is trying to do it in his head, and Senk is like, I mean, it does take a lot of time. And Kawak is just thinking about food.
Hell
Because
yeah. That's how I am when someone's like, can you do these double-digit times problems? Like, no, not really. I'm going to think about food, and then I'm going to open up my calculator app.
Look, I did it just as quickly as you did.
10 by 10? Yeah, I could do that one real quick. That's 100, baby. 10 times 11, 110. I got him.
I could do this all day.
I can go all the way up to like probably that or like 1,000's where I'm going to start getting confused.
It would be much funnier if you had just been wrong every time. 8 times 6, 463. Got him.
7 times 6, that's 97, baby.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I'll believe you anyway. Did anyone ever show you the 9 times table trick with your fingers?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think we all had a teacher at some point in our lives.
Show me that. I had to watch Stand and Deliver
Oh,
to get
really?
that shit. Yes.
Is that the one with Calculus or whatever?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the only scene I remember from that movie.
I know the ones, the twos, and the threes. Yep. But we get this thing from Sai because it turns out he just liked to run away from people who were trying to get him to do all sorts of cool stuff, be their chief financial officer or whatever. Build up his mathematical ability so he'll be valuable to the Nami Corporation, and he would just hide in the attic and play video games. And Ryusui would approach him and be like, "Hey, why not just do everything and have everything? Just desire everything. Play video games and make them, and polish your math skills and become a math guy and take over the corporation." And Sai's like, "No, I can't do all that. I just love games. I just want to program games." And Bruce would chase him around everywhere trying to get him to do a bunch of stuff. He's like, "I want to make a race course. Use your math abilities to help me calculate the best lanes for a race course." And he's like, "No, leave me alone. I don't want to be a mathematician." So he flew away to India, and he's like, "I just want to program. I just want to code." But as he thinks about this in the present, he's imagining his laptop in front of him, having a good time. And then, of course, the laptop fades away, and it's just, this undeveloped landscape in front of him from the world having decayed to ruin over the course of thousands of years. So he looks at Senku and he says, "How long would it take for us to make like a modern day computer from right here?" And Senku says, "Well, considering the components we would need to create, at best 5 years, maybe even 10. So Sai is like, why did you revive a guy like me when this is what I want to do? I mean, I look, what can I hope to achieve here? I'm a programmer." And so when they think about it a bit more, they're like, yeah, so the situation could evolve in such a way where we need someone ready to respond and calculate at top speed for 24 hours straight. We could find plenty of others to help with the manual calculations, but we'd still be treading on thin ice. So Sai is allowed to have to come onto the ship and just have a room to himself and just have some time to it himself. And so he's thinking like, God, that long without a computer, what should I even do in the meantime? I can't code at all for all this time. But then he thinks a bit more. He's like, no, who says I can't code? And he picks up some blank crayons. And when people go to check on him, he's been scrawling numbers and letters on all the walls of his room, hyperspeed going through and writing out in code. And but when he sees that they come in, he's like, "Oh no, stop it! No, it's not done." But then he explains, "Yeah, I figured, even if there are no computers, in the meantime, I could jot down some code to use for later." But of course, no one else can even understand or comprehend what he's writing code for. And they're like, "What is this?" And he says, "This is code for Dragon Quest, Japan's favorite game."
They love it. I'm playing through the new Yakuza right now, and the main character hallucinates every street brawl as Dragon Quest. They can't get enough of it, and honestly, I wish I loved anything as much as they love Dragon Quest.
I'm sure every movie based on it is great. So, but Ryusui is impressed by this. He's like, "Oh, so you're saying that no matter how primitive the machine, your coding could create a whole universe inside a computer?" And Sai says, "That's right. That's what coding is all about." So Senku says, "Okay then, change of plans. Sai, with your superior skills, will wage this war with an old throwback computer. If you can make an NES, you can make a rocket fly. It is humanity's tech singularity, the ultimate apex of scientific crafting. The stone world is getting a computer."
Punch cards. We're going back to punch card computers, baby.
Yeah, that's where things were fun,
Yeah, computers that took up entire rooms. It was great. It was perfect.
To take us back to Magic the Gathering, the game was created by Richard Garfield, a doctor of mathematics, and the game itself is actually Turing complete, which I am too stupid to explain completely. But the idea of Turing completeness is essentially that it's like a system which can recognize other data and like incorporate it like a programming language. Like, once again, I'm a fucking idiot. I can't explain this well. You can Google Turing completeness. But basically, Magic the Gathering's rules are so well made and locked together that they are like a computer. Alan Turing, obviously, is like father of computing. So,
Oh, I thought you said Alan Tudyk, and I was like, I mean, he's a great actor, but I don't know.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I was like, is he making like fucking math and shit?
You know, in between all of his Disney voice roles, he's just like,
God.
Hey.
You know, they made a movie. I think Cumberbatch played him. The British government
yes.
melted his testicles, unfortunately.
Aww. Benedict
That's what you
Cumberbatch?
get for inventing the computer. Yeah, they did that to Benedict Cumberbatch.
I feel like you should say no to that role if they're like, yeah, we need to make this real.
Look, it's got to be very method, okay? I like the direction that this chapter takes more than just we need someone who's good at math.
Yes.
So
It's a
I-
better.
I like-
Good.
I love his hands. He has great hands. They're very cool. And he's drawing on the walls. That was sick. And then obviously the big dragon was very sick. I love the art in this.
Oh yeah. And it wasn't even that horny, which is different for Dr. Stone. Sometimes it gets there. Anyway, let's move on. Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 71, Mash Burned It, and the origin of the great magic user. So
I was so excited. You've been talking this up for like years. You're like, oh, Austin, you should read Mashle. It's so funny. It's laugh a minute. I'm busting my gut over here, man. You gotta read
I can't
this.
stop
It's so
coming from all the
comical.
jokes. It's great. Yeah.
So I sat down to read chapter 67. I got my laughing pants on. I'm ready.
Well, it does open with a joke because last time Mash came into the air, it struck Innocent Zero in the face. And I questioned at the time, I was like, how did Mash get up here? Aren't they flying? And we see the answer to that is he's just kicking his legs really hard. And no one ever addresses it. Throughout the entire chapter, he is fluttering, and no one calls attention to it.
No, there's one character who goes ellipses when looking at him, but that's literally it.
Wahlberg has the whole thing like, what are you doing here? He's here for you. And Mash is just like, yeah, I was raised to be kind to my elders. And there's another little joke where Wahlberg's like, what, am I just like an old man crossing the street to him? But Innocent Zero actually has to be like serious and stuff for a little bit. So he explains that he can reconfigure his body to steal other people's magic. That's how he acquired dark magic. And now he has taken Wahlberg's space magic. Mash pulls him out of it, but it's too late. Now he has spaces bout, and we see a gigantic attack that just rips straight through a bunch of mountainsides near the area and does a lot of damage. And fuck you, Austin. Oh, this chapter's funny. You're wrong. It does like the big zoom away of all the damage, and then cuts to a full page spread of Mash. Just goes, darn.
It's such a weird thing to give a full page to.
I love it. It's such a weird use of space. But he's like, yes, he took my magic. He's too strong. And Innocent Zero's like, yes, I need this power for the world. And Mash, it's your body next. I will take that. And Mash tries to kick him, but he escapes kind of just in time before the darkness would hurt him. And he's like, yes, you felt it. The overwhelming difference of power between us. I'm taking you back. And then Mash like turns his head because Innocent Zero starts like going like, oh. They explain that his magic power is greater than his body can handle. This is why he needs those vessels like Mash. So he says, this means nothing. You are but an ingredient, your only purpose to elevate me to a higher being. Wahlberg's like, this is simply your ego. He has a right to decide the course of his life. And Innocent Zero says, the course of your life? A human without magic will never be able to live in this world. And then he basically uses a big space attack. Mash jumps and pushes Wahlberg out of the way, saves him. But they use that basically as an opportunity to get out of here. Mash gives him like one little goodbye thing, like, yeah, that's all the reason I need to beat your magic with my muscles. Then the world will accept me. And then Innocent Zero has
He's being very serious in this moment, but if you like if you just replace the dialogue with anything else, you would think that it was, not a serious moment at all, because he's just going,
Yeah. And then Innocent Zero goes back to Hueco Mundo. The rest of the sky closes back up around him, basically. And he says, we'll finish this later, assuming this doesn't get you first. And I don't remember if they ever gave a name to these things, but the monsters that were attacking the school have all kind of fused together into one gigantic super monster, and that seems to be where we're leaving off.
It's very ugly.
Yes.
It looks pretty kissable. It's got a
Well,
lot of mouths.
It's got a lot of mouths. And it's got chains, so get a little bit freaky.
That's just
too.
fashion.
Yeah.
Where are its straps, though?
That is true. It could be a lot cooler. It could have a bunch of straps.
And there's so many heads. It could have a strap over every single head.
Maybe that's
a lot of waste potential there.
Yeah.
This chapter's okay.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was a little bit funny. I don't know. Austin's fucking standards of comedy are apparently so much higher.
You hyped me up so much. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna send you a better chapter next time.
I was gonna get 911 on speed dial in case I couldn't breathe from all the laughing, and then I read it and I was like, "That's fine." It was good.
Fuck you.
All right. Let's get going on the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 25, Divine Power, 1334. So we open with where we left off last time. Ashikaga had just drawn a Buddha on the wall, but there was something that was apparently sinister about it. We find out what that is this time. We are introduced to his younger brother, Ashikaga Tadayoshi. And we get a nice, big, proper introduction to who he is and what their relationship is and stuff. And we get this explanation that because Tadayoshi works together with his brother, and he's like, so we're going to do this. Ashikaga mentions, I want you to go to Kamakura and strengthen his defenses. And Tadayoshi says, oh, your intuition, huh? And Takagi's like, yeah, I've just got a hunch that the remaining Hojo are going to rebel against us. So I want to go there. So Tadayoshi's like, yeah, your intuition is often correct. And we see like this little flashback back to their childhoods where Tadayoshi spent all this time designing a code with a puzzle for Takagi to solve. And Takagi's like, oh, a treasure hunt, huh? Okay, I'm going to start by checking under the floor in Moronao's room, which was the place that he had hidden it, but he didn't even look at the code or anything. He just, instinctively knew where it was. And Tadayoshi's like, I worked so hard on that code. And Takagi in the presence is like, yeah, sorry, I ruined your fun. But they established that the two brothers have very different skills. Takagi has this just very intrinsic instinct to just know what to do, but Tadayoshi has analytical ability. He's got proper intelligence to think things through and figure out the best strategy to approach stuff.
It's kind of like you and me, Nick. One of us is super intelligent and the other one of us is just dumb luck that just kind of gets through. Now, which one of us is which?
I'm not going to say.
We both know the answer, though.
I'm not going to say. So they establish over that they've got a very good relationship. They get along really well as brothers, despite the fact that they have these very different skill sets and personalities. And at that moment, Takagi's like, oh, hey, Tadayoshi, come into my room. I drew another Buddha. And Tadayoshi gets this kind of look in his eyes like, oh boy, here we go. And so Takagi leads him into his room. He's like, I love Buddhas. Looking at them just fills my heart. Check this out. And Tadayoshi looks at the Buddha and says, Takagi, I've just acquired some Kitayama setter. That would be perfect for the walls in this room. So, I'll give you the setter for this room, and maybe I have in exchange this exquisite illustration. Okay, that sounds fun. Just to take good care of that Kamakura place I told you about. And Tadayoshi is left by himself.
Do we call out the fact that he pronounced cedar as setter?
Yeah, I thought about it and I was like, there's no reason to be mean.
I'm so sorry that I've been exposed for my complete lack of wood knowledge. It's just like the time that I said that the desk was made of mahogany. And look,
Chris,
nothing for me can be a good old piece of oak. So,
fuck, that's so good. I felt you, buddy. We were in the cockpit together.
It was when he said it the second time the same way. I was
Just
like, oh,
the
I can't.
time I watched my favorite movie, Wee Lao. So
No. We all fuck up on time to time talking into.
Now I
disclosure,
now
that
I think
word, and I did,
I
full
may-
disclosure, I did see that word when I was reading through this, and I was like, "Is it cedar or setter?" And I was just like,
now I feel like I might change my opinion about which one of us is the smart sibling.
I've only ever seen it written down.
That's the test to get into Mensa. They just give you a piece of paper. It says, "How do you pronounce this?" Oh, stupid.
Meanwhile, I would have fucked up Ketayama. So it's really it's a different world.
I guess. Oh yeah, good job, Nick, nailing that Japanese word, but you don't know how fucking cedar's pronounced. All right. So anyway, so Tadayoshi kind of just like after his brother leaves, gets this look on his face like, oh, God damn it, this happened again. And he's thinking to himself, Takauji's like seemed inhuman recently. His intuition is even sharper than before, but it seems like there's something else going on as well. And he calls an attendant in and he says, keep the Buddha, burn the rest. Takauji's devotees must never see it. And he thinks to himself, I don't know if my brother has noticed, but the Buddhas that he draws are only something to feed upon. And we see that all that stuff in shadow that we've seen that was surrounding the Buddha over the last couple of chapters is this gigantic, demonic, multi-eyed maw that is apparently going to swallow this thing that he was like, look at the Buddha I drew. And he just, for whatever reason, didn't seem to notice it. So that's what's going on there. So
Yeah.
it's given that this also, we've seen Takauji occasionally drawn with multiple eyes or irises and pupils inside of his eyeball. It seems like it may be related to that somehow. And given that the last chapter and this one focus on the actual otherworldly things happening in this universe, maybe there's more going on to him than we were initially led to believe. We get a little narration saying in less than 18 months, the two brothers who stood on top of the world would clash with Hojo Tokiyuki. So I think that's kind of why we're getting that countdown, the years progressing forward, is that there is a time that they are going to clash. We see it cut over to Yorshige and Tokiyuki, who are talking. Tokiyuki says, like, yeah, this whole thing happened with Shizuku, and she gave me this water. By the way, someone pointed out to us, or Ninja relayed to us, that people have pointed out that apparently Shizuku was walking on water in the previous chapter. So, magic. But Tokiyuki asks, like, just what the hell happened back there and stuff? And Yorishige says, okay, well, Shizuku's got her own stuff going on. Someday she'll tell you about that. But, okay, I've got my divine power back now. Wah! I think. And she says, or rather, Yorishige says, so the divine beasts that you saw are manifestations of sacred power, which exists where human eyes cannot see. And Tokiyuki's like, I don't know what that means. And so he says, well, think about yourself for a minute. If the world becomes crowded and people come under greater surveillance one day, an influential elite like you would be unable to exist. And we get this shot of like a modern day Tokiyuki trying to hide himself from cameras and stuff. It's a very weirdly drawn picture, but Tokiyuki is drawn weirdly sometimes. I'll just leave it at that. But he says powers like this dwindle, though, as people gain the right to own land, their attachment to it grows, their dominion expands. And the more the humankind spreads itself, the powers and places that are yet unseen retreat further. Mysteries such as this one lose their mystery. And he leads Tokiyuki out onto this frozen riverbed, and he just touches his fingertips to the surface of the ice, and it causes this massive crevice in the ice to break, leading far off away from them. And Tokiyuki's like, oh my god, you split the ice like that, what the hell? And Yorishige says, in this day and age, people say that the famed god's crossing is caused by the god Suamyojin, but as more people observe it, they'll come to see it as a natural phenomenon. In other words, as human strength grows, divine power fades. When people see only crude reality, the gods and their powers vanish. So goes the flow of time. And so Tokiyuki gets a thoughtful look on his face, and he's like, does that mean that you are going to disappear someday? But Yoroshige's like, oh, my power is back. My divine power is great and undying. And he's all glowing and weird looking when he says this. But he gets more serious again after this and says, this is the last era, in which invisible powers play a role, the perfect time for your abilities. You are immortal, you are not a god, so you must live each day to the fullest. The place where you frolic now may someday melt away, so make the most of this topsy-turvy time. But this is the Elusive Samurai, and sometimes it ends chapters weirdly. So at that point, Tokiyuki's like, okay, but I need you to clean up something for me. And so he basically makes Yorishige go out with all the stuff that Tokiyuki gathered that made everyone think he's a pervert. And they're like, Yorishige is the pervert, and he made our great lord gather all that stuff for him. What an awful person. So everything worked out.
He's a bad hombre.
It's had a great structure. The first half with like the ominous rising danger. The second half with like the contemplative, poetic, reflection on the nature of mystery, and then just ending on a joke. It's great. I love it.
There you go. It's everything Austin wants. I thought that was a fun chapter.
I love this chapter. I really love the conversation Tokiyuki and Yorishige have about, people, rely more on, the stuff that they can't understand, but then that actually literally loses its capabilities as people are like, oh no, science. So it's interesting. And it's kind of one of those things that like structures it in a way that makes me, even as an agnostic person, goes like, yeah, I kind of buy that, as opposed to whatever mystical hubu-jubu bullshit. So
it's very Nietzschean. It's like, the modernity killed God. And I mean, I jumped on the Discord to talk to, read people what were saying about the Buddha reveal, because I wasn't sure of all the implications of it. I'm not really well read in Buddhism. But to me, it read as, like the end of The Shining, where he's been writing his novel the whole time. But when other people look at it, it just says all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy over and over and over, while he thinks it's a regular story. That's like the reveal to me. And I thought that was really cool. And then, yeah, the second half ending on the joke was very strong. So great stuff all around.
Really good. All right, let's move on to Black Clover real quick here. Page 300. Beyond Tenacity. So Gaja did his big attack last time and failed, and he's pretty fried. Mechikula congratulates him on what he did, but unfortunately it did not work. Her body is under the protection of an ultra high speed recovery curse. And
the fact that she says ultra high speed just made me think like, okay, that completely takes all of the momentousness out of this.
It's an uber quick spell. You can't counter it.
You can't beat my elite regeneration hacks.
So things look bad. Everyone is down except for Noelle. Noelle tries to use Saint Stage, but the Curse Ward spells are literally eating away at her. And Mechikula gives actually a pretty cool speech. If we had more time, I might go through it more individually. But basically, she's just like, you continue to struggle. I don't get why. A couple of you people have, stood against me before for different reasons, like the love of your children or the loyalty to your others. But you're fighting for a hope that doesn't even exist. Why don't you just give up? And Noelle goes through an equally also pretty good speech about like, it's basically we have to keep fighting. So
I'm terrified, but I have to persevere.
Yeah.
So.
Mechikula is less like, fascinating, but I can't waste more time. I'm gonna make her explode now and kill everybody. And Noelle is gonna try to stop her, but she can't do anything. She reaches her arm out, but on reaching her arm out, she literally is tagged in as Asta slides in, surfs in on his sword, which I always forget he does. And then pokes Lola Pachika in the belly with his magic canceling sword and solves the problem.
Oh boy.
And it ends the chapter. And I'll be honest, I feel like every human being who read this series, I should say every human being, because there's some people who genuinely love Black Clover with all their heart. Anyone who's ever been like, Black Clover has bad moments and part of the problem is with Asta, had the exact same moment where they were into this chapter, and then Asta surfboards on a sword into the scene. And everyone was like, this again. That said, I actually love this chapter. I think this chapter is phenomenal. I love the speeches. I actually kind of like Asta coming in and saving the day because the whole chapter is about like the only people who've really ever stood up to Megicula before have been these various different relationships. Acacia doing it for her children, Raja doing it for his queen. It makes sense that Noelle and Asta's relationship is like the other kind of major ship group in this would get kind of a moment here. The only real issue I have with it is Asta can skate into a seat and suck all the drama out of it by poking someone with a sword, but that's the problem that Black Clover is just going to have forever.
Black Clover seems like the most 5 out of 10 manga series. It's like the most exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I read this right after Magu-chan too, which did a similar. It's like, but lowly humans, I am so powerful. Like it was like almost parodying this exact kind of setup. So reading it afterward just made me like heave a sigh and just being like, yeah, I forgot, man. Manga's like this sometimes. All right. Like honestly, I think I had more fun with the weird cheesecake and Eden Zero and the weird foot stuff in Neru than this. You guys don't do worst chapter, but if you did, this is probably my. I mean, I'm not invested in these characters. Maybe it's great for you, but to me, it's just like everything I don't like about shonen.
Okay.
So apparently, Asta losing his big climactic battle with the member of the Triad that he had, history with, meant that he had to go and steal Noelle's. So this is the moment that I've been not looking forward to for approximately 2 months. So the fact that it happened and that it happened so makes it easy. It's just. Can we just do Black Clover without Asta? Can we just try and do it for like a year? Just a year. No Asta. Just give it a try one time. It's bullshit. All right, let's move on.
All right, let's talk about another fight, I guess.
Just an average run-of-the-mill, not interesting fight. Nothing supremely cool happens.
Frankie had a fight. Okay, so best chapter and MVP. Let's go over that. I don't know. Is there anything else noteworthy that happens that I should talk about? Because I could just go back and talk about how Asta took out his sword and poked the thing that solves everything instead.
He also surfboard in on another sword, so you can give him that.
Try Sarah-copter. Try Sarah-copter.
And then on the other hand, he was taking out his third sword and he was just masturbating it. Like,
no. What I love about this chapter is at no point do they ever explain why being a Triceratops would allow him to spin his frill around and fly. It is never explained. It is never given a context.
You're telling me this line of dialogue doesn't clear it up? Is that how dinosaurs work?
There's literally a member of Kaido's crew who is a cyborg dinosaur and could do things like this. And this is not that character.
Chapter 1019, Heliceratops. Sanji is fighting with Queen. Chopper and the doctor people are helping out with
Chopper's
Zoro.
doctoring. Yep, we all know the song.
There's a moment where where Zoro's like, "Why don't you take the bandages off before you inject me with this thing?" And they're like, "Oh, is that why the needle's going in so deep?" Okay, so yeah, they're professionals. It's all right. Trust them. Out on the sea, Luffy is still asleep and passed out inside of the submarine. And they're like, "Oh man, give him some pills, give him an injection. What should we do?" And Luffy just wakes up and goes, "Meat!" Which, yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Inside the Skull Dome, Frankie's biggest problem with fighting Sasaki, which is that he's got the Iron Legion interfering in it. Well, because they've all kind of turned on each other because of the millet dumplings. Frankie's free to just have a one-on-one fight with Sasaki, so good for him. Frankie's like, "Man, this guy's tough. I swear I've dealt the finishing blow a couple times already. Stop kicking out of my finisher, bro." So, but Sasaki's like, "Get out of my way." He takes his Beastman form, so he's got this weird serrated katana thing with him, and it's his screw sword because it's got like a bunch of razor blades sticking out of the sides, which start to spin around. Which I don't know if that would make it cut better or if it would just like leave weird, nasty gashes on people. So, Frankie gets ready for him, but then his frill starts spinning around like a helicopter, as you have indicated. And yeah, Frankie's just like, is that how dinosaurs work? Because he's never studied paleontology because he was too busy making machines. And the question
is it paleontology when it's scientifically known that dinosaurs exist in this world and characters have met them before?
Look, if you didn't have model dinosaurs as a kid, then you don't know how dinosaurs work, even if you live with them. So Sasaki starts rushing forward while flying through the air, and he's just going to like break up the mob. And it's really weird because like he's got his sword, but then he just uses the rotating rotors to cut them instead because, unbelievably, having a fan blade around your neck that you're using to fly makes it kind of difficult to swing your sword. So he breaks up the mob, and then he actually swings the sword at Frankie. And Frankie's like, what the hell? This guy's like flying and is really mobile. This is absurd. And then the guy revs up and Sasaki goes backwards as Frankie prepares his shield. So he's like, oh, what the hell? He just rotated the propeller the wrong way and went into reverse on accident, didn't he? And Sasaki's like, yeah, I need space to charge you. And Frankie's like, no, you didn't. You just made a stupid mistake. He's really insistent on this point. But then Sasaki's like blushing when he says this, like, no, I need more room for a bigger charge. He launches himself at Frankie, digs into the shield, and Frankie's like, oh no, my shoulder-loaded rockets are gonna be set off. But then he counters this by using a general suplex to smash Sasaki's head into the ground. And he's like, oh, you might be done for. Your stomach wound's bleeding really bad. But now you're done. I'm going to use my Franken sword V for victory. Flash! And Sasaki just flies out of the ground over it, so he dodges it. and Frankie's like, stop it! I'm not actually good at sword fighting. And then Sasaki just uses his screw sword to cut the blade in half. So he's like, oh, man, that's it. It's time for my ultimate last resort. And he turns and runs away. So Sasaki rushes after him in another big bullet triceratops charge. But Frankie's like, I'm all set. Here's my gown cannon portable version. And he fires a huge general cannon to Sasaki, who just eats the blow and keeps on coming after him. And he's like, if I have to take both of us out, so be it. Magnum Triceratops. And he launches himself forward into Frankie, digs into the General Frankie, but Frankie has abandoned ship, escaped out of it, and just launches his radical beam from a different angle straight up into Sasaki's stomach. And that seems to take Sasaki out. His eyes go all white and no pupils. So it looks like the first of the Tobi Roppo may have been, well, no, wait.
That's like the fourth, technically, at this point. Assuming that Ulti and Page 1 are down.
Right?
Jimbei beat who's who last week.
Is he?
Yeah, well, the implication is that he was defeated.
Okay. So, yeah. But the things are definitely progressing in these Straw Hat Tobi Roppo fights pretty quickly now. But that's not the end of the chapter. We cut to the roof of Onigashima, where Yamato and Kaido are battling, and Kaido says, I recognize your value as a soldier. But Yamato's like, oh, is that what his father's supposed to say? So Kaido berates Yamato, saying, I worked hard to acquire that devil fruit. I never intended for you to eat it. And Yamato says, I was hungry. I didn't know that would happen either. Which is, kind of another little parallel between himself and Luffy that's been going on. And Yamato says, kind of brings home something that isn't really commented on except in moments of, oh no, they're going to drown, of the actual curse of eating a devil fruit, because he says, I wanted to sail out to sea, and because I ate that fruit, I can't even swim anymore. So, yeah, it sucks for him. But he says, I tried to kill you more times than I can count, and more times than I can count, you beat me down, but it made me stronger. Those cuffs were the only thing keep me here on this island. If I don't fight for the sake of this country, then I can't call myself Odin. which is a cool line. But also, we see that Yamato has apparently unleashed his devil fruit ability and is in some sort of beastman form, which looks, I don't know if this is exactly what it is, but it looks vaguely like a little bit Cubey-ish based on what we can see of a tail, and like there's flames coming out of his neck, out of his hair.
Well, we know Catalina Devon ate the nine tails, like the Cubey fruit. So
Sure.
I think some people have theorized this, what, a Kalin or something like that. It's like a Chinese dragon.
Yeah, it has different pronunciations. It'd be Quillin or Kyrin. It's basically like a stag dragon or like a unicorn dragon, depending on the.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
It's that shitty legendary from X and Y.
You're talking about Xerneas?
Yeah, the fucking lame ass fucking deer dragon thing.
It would definitely match the flames coming out of the joints in the arms and legs. But I'm sure we'll get confirmation sooner rather than later. The one thing that I have to say about this is that I think that it makes Yamato's face look kind of stupid. But
yeah, it's not the best.
I mean, if a person turning into an animal would look kind of stupid. I feel like.
What are you talking about? Sasaki turned into a Triceratops and it was awesome all week.
No, you got me there. I'm fucking owned. Never mind. I retract my statement and resign in shame. You got me.
Also, how'd you feel about this character? Now you got to see the character that Big Star was inspired off of.
I mean, I've seen Frankie before. I haven't obviously gotten there. I'm watching the One Piece anime for the audience, so I'm.
Why aren't you there yet? You've only got another 700 episodes to go.
I'm going. There's just so much of it. I don't know. All the characters in One Piece obviously are super cool. Yamato's super cool. Frankie's super cool. Sasaki's super cool. It's just a very cool series. So, I mean, I feel like it's, how can you top the Triceracopter? You can't. It's foolish to try.
All right.
Okay.
With that, let's talk about if anyone can do that. We're gonna go to MVPs and favorite series of the week.
Oh boy, I said in the Discord that I wanted to make my MVP Sangrophage, the 3-3 for 2 zombie that Hajime uses very often in Destroy All Humanity, but I don't know if that's within the rules to pick from the recommendation for the character of the week.
Ninja will sass you if you do, but he won't stop you. You're free. You're free to pick whatever you want.
If I to play by the rules, I mean, it's Sasaki. It's obviously Triceracopter. It's just a baller ass character, and it's like once in a lifetime to get to see something this incredible. What was the other line? There was another line where he said something like, "This is what Triceratops do," and I was like, I guess if you just say it, no one can. It's your world. Oh fuck, where was that? So stupid. I love this.
I do enjoy, because there was specifically a One Piece character built who had hair he could spin to fly, and they never gave him a full fight, and he just lost. And I was like, did Oda come up with an idea for how Buffalo should have fought like 400 chapters after that fight happened? He's like, fuck it, Triceratops just does it now.
Yeah, Frankie says, I wasn't expecting an air battle. And Sasaki says, this is what a Triceratops does. Just like, okay, cool. Yeah, sick. Awesome.
All right, so my series of the week, I think, is going to be the Elusive Samurai. Again, bunch of different things in one chapter that were all really good. My MVP is going to be Elira for giving us the rarest of gifts, which is hero girls taking their clothes off. Because I mean,
oh no.
Yeah, my actual MVP is going to be Sai from Dr. Stone. I really like his whole focus on. I really like programming, because you can make an entire world just with numbers and letters. It's very neat. So.
My favorite character this week was the feet in Neru. They were really no, it's gonna be Frankie, because Frankie is dope.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
I also really liked Ruru in Magu-chan, but I'm really salty about the Uneris things. That kind of ruined it for me. So
honestly, Magu might be my favorite chapter, if I'm being honest with myself. I think the actual the emotional arc it went on, and how fucking cute all the characters are, that might have been my most enjoyment. Because in One Piece, there was non-Sasaki content, which drags it down, I feel like. So that's my MVP character, obviously. But I think Magu is actually, like, hits per minute. It's like just bangers all the way down, if I'm honest with myself.
Well, the audience agreed with you. It was the audience chapter of the week, and Fuko won their character of the week. My chapter of the week, by the way, is Black Clover. It's not a joke. Fucking fight me. It was a great chapter.
No, you be brave. Stand up for yourself.
I'm going to.
This is
I'm
kinda
going to
like,
listen to that Sarah Bareilles song. Time to show you all how big my brave is.
This is kind of like if we had a bit where the thing that happens in screwball kids comedies where like there's the pet that's causing all sorts of trouble or whatever, and so there's the person who's like really working hard on their art. They're a struggling artist and they've spent months working on their thing that's going to finally be their masterpiece, but then the troublesome pet tracks paint paws all over it or splatters paint everywhere all over it, and people are like, oh no, it's ruined, but then the artist comes in and is like, oh, it's brilliant, it's unlocked something that I couldn't have done all on my own. That's like how you are with Black Clover versus how I am with Black Clover. It's like, oh, that acid twist was garbage, and you're like, nah, it's great.
Yeah.
Hearing that the audience liked Fuko so much it gives me pause, because it is so rare for one of these series to just have a couple, like the main couple, who just love each other and are like open about it. That is really refreshing. I should appreciate that more. So
yeah,
I'm thankful for that perspective.
Undead Unluck is great. Just skip the first 8 chapters or so. The first 8 chapters are very problematic.
This is a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Austin, before you go, let people know where they can find you.
I'm very easy to find. I just use my name everywhere, and it's a weird Ukrainian name, so no one else has it really. Austin Yorski, Yorski. You can find that on Twitter, Austin Yorski, patreon.com/Austin Yorski. It's Austin Yorski all the way down. Just type it into Google, see what happens.
Yeah.
Just maybe look at some of the results, see how it makes you feel.
Sex with animals. Oh my goodness.
Skip some of those results, maybe.
All right.
Well, where can they find what content do? You do a podcast, don't you?
Oh, you're making me do professional plugs.
Yeah.
On a late night show, Conan over there.
Doing the string chants, yeah.
Yeah, both Nick and Chris have been on my show, Dice Funk. It's an actual play tabletop comedy drama. I don't know. We play D&D and we make boner jokes. It's not that deep. It's a lot of fun. Our new season has a lot of great stuff going on. You should check it out. You just start from episode 1, the latest season. You don't need to go back to earlier seasons. I mean, Chris is in the new season for a bit. Chris is in a lot of the earlier seasons too. There's a lot of Chris content. Nick's on one shots. It's Dice Funk.
Yeah, you gotta go for the special archives for the stuff that they allowed me in through the door on. So
it's too hot for TV stuff.
Compared to the main line, no.
Yeah, no, that's true. We get wet and wild on the show sometimes. I'm not the one. Listen, there's a lot of people I can't control on the show, and they go places. So it's Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not the traditional stereotypical stuff. We do a lot of deconstruction, a lot of nerd ass thinking about politics, and also it's very funny. It's a funny show. So yeah. That's it.
There's at least one scene that I ruined with a fart joke at one point, so
at least one.
I just remember there was a plot point we had to get through a door or something, and I was just like, I don't know, my character cuts the loudest fart possible as a distraction.
Yes. That was like the second to last episode as you were like storming the villain's castle too. It was so near the climax and you started farting.
It was just a moment where I was like, what do I do here? And I just went with the old default of like, the character is an old man. He cuts the loudest, oldest fart he can, right? And solve the problems.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, you've done some genuinely incredible work on that show. It feels weird. I know you hate compliments, but like, Chris is one of the greatest artists of our generation.
I assume
you can hear that on Dice Funk.
In my mind, I'm like, he's talking about Chris Evans. That's how I'm able to get by.
Yeah, whatever you have to tell yourself, bud. Great.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Austin, for showing up for this and for bringing your Magic the Gathering references that made me realize, like, oh, I guess I don't actually understand Magic any better after reading this manga about it. And for those of us who are listening to the podcast and want to find out more stuff about us, you can follow us on Twitter at Nick F. Time, and at T for your hosts. The official podcast account is at WMR Podcast on Twitter. We will let you know through there when the show starts recording, which we do Wednesdays, roughly around 7:30 Eastern Time in the evening. But sometimes, like tonight, things go a little bit different. So if you want to get an exact time that'll happen, you can do that. You can join us on Twitter there, or by our Discord server, where a lot of great stuff happens. We made a lot of references to it throughout this episode. It's a great community. They do bi-weekly gaming nights, as well as discuss the chapter, discuss the series that we are going to talk about, all sorts of stuff. Damn it. I forgot to pick out a recommendation for that we're going to work on. Join us on the Discord to find out what it is very shortly after this. Damn it.
Oh, no. Do you want me and Austin to riff for like a moment? You could just pick something out real quick?
Thing, now this. Beyond that, you can also check us out on YouTube. YouTube.com/Weekly Manga Recap will have the video version of the show, where you can also see the opening as done by Milo Jack Stillis and Winsleydale Cheddar. You can also see the title cards done by Steve Mann, whose work you can check out wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet. Just look for Steve Mann. He's also got a Patreon, patreon.com/Steve Mann. And we also would like to thank everyone who supports us on our own Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, for allowing us to bring bonus content for you guys to enjoy. And lastly, to Ninja X3i, who does all sorts of stuff to help us, make sure that we do things by making letting us know.
If Ninja hadn't suggested you should have Austin on the Magic the Gathering episodes, oh, I guess I probably should, right? I'm an idiot. It was legitimately only because Austin had brought up people who suggested. I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea.
And also Ninja organizes all of the stuff that we've been recommending in the past, the MVPs and stuff that we name each week, so that we, he can tell us later at the end of the year, this was the one that got the most votes. This is what the audience voted on. All sorts of fun stuff, and you can find that as well through the Discord server to check out the Google Doc that he maintains. And I believe that is everything except for the series that I should probably pick out. But I don't know if I have the time to do this.
Let me and Austin riff for a moment. We're just going to go off on a random topic. We'll talk about zoos. Austin, how do you feel about zoos?
I mean, it's sad that the animals are in jail. But
all right, we need a happier topic. How do you feel about video games?
I feel increasingly bad.
Yeah, it's bad how they exploit their workers. How do you feel about cars? Oh, the oil industry.
All right, cupcakes, asshole. How do you feel about cupcakes? Can you do something mean with those?
Yeah, the sugar industry exploitates the Caribbean nations. Come on, there's only one thing we can talk about that's not problematic, which is, of course, the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism. No one can disagree, and it's perfectly pleasant.
All right, you know what? I had an idea to do this, but it is in our recommendations list, so I'm going to go for it. We're going to read Alice in Borderland, which is Gantz but not. So
I don't like the description of that.
/ Battle Royale but not. And we're going to do it because I've been watching the Netflix series that it's based on it. So
is it super horny like Gantz was? And
not
gross?
As horny.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's something to at least it's a better start then.
Well, I guess I get out of this one. Good luck. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
I'm out.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.